across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Good afternoon to you. Just gone 4 o'clock. It is Wednesday and we're live across the UK. Talk Drive until 7. Thanks for tuning in, fan. People, I tell you, there's so much to talk about today. As ever, let's start as we mean to go on. If you do want to be part of this show, 3 ways to contact us. Ryan is back from spending his wife's birthday having a massage. She didn't, he did. It was lovely. Jodie back in the second seat, although many people feel that she did such a good job yesterday that it was merely time before Ryan is cast aside. I wouldn't be so rude because Ryan's quite tall. Anyway, if you want to be on, Jodie, the Everton fan, 0344 499 1000. If you want to send a WhatsApp, you can do that. You can send a voice note. Ryan, the Watford fan, it gets even more funny, 0344 499 1000, or you can send a text, 87222. Start your message with the word talk. When I talk about the stuff that's in the news at the end before we do the handover, I'm sure most people think, are you joking? No, I'm not. The 3 or 4 main news stories today are that Labour MP Stella Creasy literally stood up in the House of Commons today, demanding that illegal migrants be given British citizenship because we gave it to Paddington Bear. I think for a small second, a lot of people thought she was taking the mickey. She wasn't. She was talking about people in a Walthamstow constituency who'd come to this country on a boat, had gained citizenship, worked, paid their taxes, and said how unfair it was of her own party to be considering not doing that for everybody when we did it for Paddington Bear. But what do you expect from a government whose next Labour border czar is going to work from home from Finland? I haven't made this stuff up. That is genuinely true. Or a government who says that we should show more empathy to children who want to identify as animals, and some of us should walk on all fours in authority to make them feel... I'm not even making this... honestly, I nearly said the wrong word. I'm not making this up. This is true stuff. This is not... I'm not messing around here. Gazans given the right to live in the United Kingdom. Everybody on the left will go, quite right, it's terrible, they've all been displaced. I'm not saying it isn't terrible. We did it with Ukraine. Some people will argue it's the right thing to do, although they're using a loophole. I'd like to put this to you. How do we know who these people are, where they come from, whether they're dangerous, whether they're criminals? How come England, the United Kingdom, is suddenly a place that everybody just comes when they're having a hard time, especially when our services aren't even looking after the people in this country? But nobody on the left will answer that. They all say it's about showing that we're good people. I say it's about time we looked after our own people and prevent, again, failing. More on that. The government's, anti-terrorism unit has played a part in Sir David Amos's death. Sadly, we're here today. The government body that needs taking down. All of that and so much more. And we start with a man who, well, is a doyen, a dresser, a successful businessman, and a supremely talented broadcaster. That's what it says here. Oh, no, sorry, we've got Russell Quirk.
Yes,
How are you?
I stepped in at the last minute.
How are you, my old son?
I'm very well, mate. Very, very well. Apart from this lunacy of news that we keep having to talk about.
Well, it is lunacy, and when I tell you about Stella Creasy, people think that I genuinely am making this up. She stood up in the House of Commons. We believe that she was digging at her own party, who are starting to talk about we need to control illegal migration, because let's be honest, that's on the lips of every single person in the United Kingdom. But Stella Creasy genuinely said small boat asylum seekers should get the same welcoming treatment as Paddington Bear. Yeah. She hit out at her own party's crackdown on them gaining citizenship as part of Home Office's efforts to deter it. Border officials have been given toughened new guidance by Labour, but the Walthamstow MP, Ms Creasy, said that this would deny those whose asylum claims were granted from integrating into communities with full citizenship, like Paddington Bear. I'm not making this up, Russell Quirk.
No, you're not. I saw this as well, and I had to have a second look. I also had to have a second look at the date today to make sure it wasn't April the 1st. But yeah. We are here another day and another ridiculous edict from this hapless government and their... I mean, she's not a minister, thank goodness, but give it time. I'm sure there'll be a few more sacked and she'll be in line in the not-too-distant future, no doubt. But yes, does she not realise that A, Paddington is not real, but also that what this actually tells us is that the Labour Party, at its heart, at its root, the approach by them with regard to immigration is very much open the doors, let as many people in as possible, and here's the rub. Give them citizenship so that they get the vote. Now, in that way, and we've talked about this on this channel many, many times, lots and lots of people have poo-pooed me on Twitter when I've said, I think this is what this is all about. They are going to try and give illegal migrants, let alone legal migrants, the vote, so that those people vote Labour forevermore, and we end up
out of gratitude.
We end up then with an elected dictatorship with someone like Starmer, Rayner, or whoever at the helm. I mean, forevermore. That is what this is about.
I'd never thought of it like that. You know, you sit here and you think, is it this blind sort of belief that you know, we should be great? But this week we've had a new health minister, and again, people tuning into the show go, Jez has probably lost the plot. This week we discovered that the Labour Party has got a new health minister who thinks that people can identify as llamas. We did this on Monday. Heather Dalton. This is Ashley Don. I think this is absolute fact that there should be same-sex toilets and a woman can have a penis. Now we've got a Labour MP, Stella Creasy, 12 years in the Commons, saying, come on, be nicer to migrants. We did it to Paddington Bear. People at home, people in their cars or their vans or on the train with they're going like this right now. They're going, just the world's gone nuts.
Well, hang on,
nuts.
Let's not also gloss over. I'm sure we talked about this yesterday or the day before. We've got a foreign secretary that also thinks that we as a country should pay the Caribbean trillions of pounds in reparations for slavery, which, let's not forget, we as a country stopped in the early 1800s.
He frightens me as well, Lammy.
Well, yeah, but they all frighten us, don't they?
I think so. 0344 499 1000, not a made-up story. Stella Creasy, Labour MP for Walthamstow, said we should show migrants the same respect that we showed Paddington Bear. The woman's completely deranged. This government goes from bad to worse. A health minister who thinks it's all right to be a llama, a Labour MP who thinks we should treat migrants like Paddington Bear, and their choice for the next borders watchdog has today John Tuckett. I hope he doesn't it up. He's hinted that he plans to work part-time in his job and mostly from home, and his home's in Finland. He's going to be in charge of the borders and the problems in this country put there by Sir Keir Starmer, and he wants to reside at home, he's the preferred candidate, in Finland.
Yes, one wonders how he thinks that he's going to absorb the context of all the many, many problems we have here as a consequence of immigration, but also how is he going to visit our borders? How's he going to go to Dover? How's he going to interview border force individuals, migrants, politicians? How's he going to do that and actually get the context clearly and correctly in terms of the problems that face us? What we end up here is the absolute epitome of our ruling class, whether they're civil servants or politicians, which is that they are completely distant, dissected and removed from the rest of us. And
he's going to be paid £130,000 a year and he's going to reside in Finland. It's taking the mickey out of British people.
They are trolling us. They are trolling us.
I agree with that.
You know,
do you think they are literally trying to wind me up every day?
I'll tell you what we'll do. We'll get someone to look after the borders that lives 1,000 miles away from Britain. Ha, ha, ha. I mean, you could just... I mean, it's...
So is this government, then? Here's the thing for you out there. Tell us what you think. 0344 499 1000. Are they incompetent? Are they laughing in our faces? Do they not give a damn? What is the truth? These are...
All of the above. All of the above.
It's just appalling, man.
All of the above. And I think, I'm afraid, that the government as they are now has spent a long time in opposition. Of course, we all know that they have no life experience. Most of them have been spads, bag carriers, worked at Labour Central Office for many, many years, not had proper jobs. Certainly none of them ever run businesses. I think that, you know, they're now in government and they're still playing out their sixth form political fantasies, their ideology of the sixth form, without realising that actually their decisions have real consequences.
They've never gone to work.
It hasn't dawned on them.
Listen, I agree with you.
The penny hasn't dropped.
You talk about... Right, here's a voice note straight away, 0344 499 1000. This is Kelvin, hopefully not Mackenzie, on the madness that is the United Kingdom. Go.
Can't I often wonder if this... You know, if we woke up in Wonderland or something with all this going on with the government, referring to Paddington Bear and having people walk around on all fours, it's laughable. You just can't make this bloody rubbish up, can you?
You can't really. 0344 499 1000. Also, this is the day when the Children's Society, a child abuse prevention charity, and they do great work, has produced a guide to assess the risk of online exploitation amongst children who identify as transgender or non-binary, as well as subcultures, including furries and therians, whatever that is. Basically, we need to be showing more respect to children who identify as furries and spend the afternoons on all fours. Now, I don't give a toss whether this gets me the sack. If one of my children came in like that, I'd put them in the garden and give them cat meat or dog meat or some pellets for a month, and they'd soon as eggs is eggs be back through the door. What a load of old rubbish.
So this is...
Well, how would you react if one of your kids said, Dad, I've turned into a mouse?
Well, I have to tell you, I have 3 daughters. 2 of them are in state school. 1 is in private school. The 2 in state school tell me that in their year at school, I won't mention the school, they have 2 furries, so 2 kids that identify as cats, and sometimes they come in with tails on and cat's ears and so on. Now, of course, I said to my daughters, well, what happens at lunchtime? Do they get a bowl of Whiskers? I mean, you know, are they thrown catnip to keep them quiet at the back of the class if they misbehave? But the serious
Do your
point
daughters think it's normal? Or
no.
Do they find it
my
weird?
daughters, I've been indoctrinated by the likes of you and I,
Yep.
in a good way, in that my daughters are full of common sense. My daughters don't want to get involved in the debate. They don't want to call it out because, of course, from a peer pressure point of view, perhaps that wouldn't be particularly
That worries me as well.
Well, no, but they are not convinced by
Not them. Not them. It worries me that we're now amongst a generation.
But Jeremy, here's the thing, right? Let's tell this how it is. Can we just be, as we are on this channel, very clear and honest about what this is? This is kids that are crying for help and attention.
Yep.
And it's parents that, frankly, are tantamount in terms of their encouragement and their enabling of this. It's child abuse. In my opinion, this is child abuse.
You and I would probably be coming from the same school.
And actually, the parents and the teachers must have something wrong with them in terms of their own mental health.
Well, do you know what? I'm actually
allow this to continue.
Do you know what? I'm going to defend teachers for a bit. I've always said that these sorts of things start at home. People say to me, "Oh, that's easy for you to say." No, it isn't. I would know if any of my... I will get slaughtered for this comment. I would know if my kids were on drugs. I would know if my kids had those sorts of... Because I invest in my kids 24 hours a day. If you ask my kids, and this will go down like a lead balloon.
And you've got a few of them.
I have. Do you know what they'll all say? We'll never take drugs. And why? Because he told us from day one, I will take you to a crack den and I will leave you there for 24 hours. And you can say of me what you want, OK? That is, I've seen it. I've done it. I've done all of that on the television, and I've done all that stuff, and it terrifies the what's it out of me. But you have to take time with your children and invest. Yeah. If my child came to me and said, I identify as a cat, I agree with you. There's got to be something going on in your brain.
But there's also this Munchausen...
Is it a call for attention?
There's this Munchausen by proxy thing, isn't there? Where parents now are almost encouraging this behaviour by their kids, whether it be to be non-binary or to be trans or to be furries. Because I think the parents themselves want the attention. They want to stick it on TikTok. They want to stick it on Instagram. They want to glorify. It is child abuse. Disagree with me, but it's child abuse.
What do you make of it, team? What do you make of this? You know, furries, kids, is it a call for help? Is it child abuse? 0344 499 1000. The other thing we talked about, jokingly with Stella Creasy about Paddington Bear, but migration on a more serious note, Palestinian migrants are being granted the right to live in the UK after applying through a scheme meant for Ukrainian refugees. Now, I always made the difference between, I always pointed out that during the Ukrainian war, people opened their hearts and their homes, and that was a good thing. How do we feel about the fact that Palestinians, Gazans, can arrive? Am I being unfair when I say, should they be treated differently from Ukrainians? What's your view on this?
So look, the Ukrainian scheme was a specific scheme that allowed 75,000 Ukrainians in because they were in peril. This particular Palestinian individual and his wife and 4 children has used the scheme for the Ukrainians and gone to a tribunal and tried to effectively manipulate that scheme. And frankly, look, can you blame him? I suppose maybe not. However, the person that we should blame here is a certain Hugo Norton-Taylor, who is the judge that decided that, yeah, it's fine. We should also blame, maybe it's not so much the judge's fault, but the famous ECHR, the European Convention of Human Rights, which, of course, the judge cited in this case and said, well, actually, I think this family might be in peril, which is why they've allowed the appeal. But the problem is this then allows millions and millions of people in on the same precedent, the same basis, whether you're from Afghanistan, Syria, from, potentially from Vietnam, maybe from Colombia, because you're worried about drug dealers fighting in the street.
This week, you haven't been with me, but this week we've had the ludicrous scenarios that a woman and her, I think it was, strange enough, Finnish husband or I don't know who it was, she said, I can't be deported back to the Caribbean because he wouldn't be used to the heat. It would be too extreme. There was a man who managed to grab hold of a left-wing trendy lawyer and find a judge and stay in this country because you saw the story, Nugget Gate, because his son wouldn't like the chicken.
Yeah.
I mean, all of that, to me, makes a mockery, and I'm being completely serious when I say this, it makes a mockery of us on the world stage. It makes a mockery, I think, amongst our own people. And what it does is enforce absolutely that many normal, mainstream people are embarrassed and fed up, Russ.
We've got an ECHR, so the European Convention on Human Rights, which was brought into the Human Rights Act by Tony Blair in 1998. So it basically stems back to him. The ECHR was no doubt conceived with good intentions, but the minute that
78 years ago.
But the minute you start talking about, look, maybe we need to unwind the Human Rights Act because that is now 30 years old or whatever, that does not mean, cue the left moaning at what I've just said, that does not mean that Britain doesn't want human rights. We invented human rights,
absolutely,
with the Magna Carta and so on and so on. We can get rid of this European diktat, which liberal judges are now manipulating every day. Every day we're talking about.
And we're paying for these judges and the lawyers.
Well, we're paying for the legal aid as well, and we're paying for those migrants that end up being able to settle here, whether they're paedophiles, whether they're criminals or not.
Do you think we're becoming a standing joke? And I'm being completely serious.
Yes, and it's almost at the point where I think there's no point in having tribunals and appeal processes because they're just letting everybody stay no matter what.
Steve, voice note, this is about showing empathy to your children who want to identify as animals. Go.
So if someone can identify as a llama, I take it that you could identify it as a dog as well, right? So so what happens if someone who identifies as a dog commits a crime, right? So you can't put them in prison because they're a dog. And also, what happens if a big dog in real life bites someone? They get put down, don't they? So what happens to the said criminal then? They put them down, put them in a vet, in a zoo, in a kennel? Oh, the world's gone mad, mate.
I mean, you're smiling and I'm smiling, but
it's ridiculous that we're even talking about it, isn't it? It's crazy we're even talking about it.
Let's go to Bridgend, South Wales. New caller, James, you're on Talk Drive. Russell's with me. What you got, pal?
How we doing, mate? You okay?
Oh, not bad. You've been under Labour for 25 years. Have you identified as a dog or something yet?
Oh, Jesus Christ, mate. Honestly, God. We're suffering. We've been suffering for 25 years. Oh. But listen, so I want to talk about these MPs. They want people to identify as llamas or what have you, and all this nonsense. So I got a bit of an idea for our elderly. Why can't they maybe take a plane over to France, jump on a boat, come back to the UK and identify as an illegal immigrant, a female illegal immigrant, so they can get a bit of, a free hotel, some heating, a mobile phone, a little bit of pocket money. Maybe that's an idea for them.
And see a doctor within 24 hours, Russell Quirk.
Well, we did
great suggestion,
It is a great. We did actually suggest that very thing on this show a few weeks ago when we were taking the mickey out of the way that things are, particularly with regard to pensioners not being able to have the winter fuel allowance anymore. Yet, if you're a 25-year-old Albanian that comes over on a rubber dinghy, you are allowed a 4-star hotel, unlimited pizza, an iPhone 13, education, dentistry, and more.
James, to me, very quickly, but to me, it's becoming. I hate it when people laugh, and I'm the worst culprit. It's got to a point, I think, where you just genuinely feel that people are taking the mickey, and that people in this country who have worked hard, and I'll say it every day until they chuck me out, are being cast aside and are at the back of the queue, and that's not what it was meant to be about in any which way at all, was it? You know, the welfare state, the benefit system, the public services are stretched, but there seems to be space and help to be given by anybody that hasn't done anything for that. Do you know what I mean, James?
Absolutely, Jamie. I'm not an intelligent person when it comes to politics. I really ain't. But that's a no-brainer, you know.
Completely agree. James, new caller in Bridgend. Thank you very much indeed. Russell Quirk, you are a legend. Paddington, you're going to... Never mind. 420 0344 499 1000 is our telephone number. Jodie is here. She's very excited. It's the final Everton-Liverpool Goodison derby this weekend. Will she go... I mean, Cameron, her boyfriend's a Liverpool fan. She's an Everton fan. They will not be sharing a bed. I'm telling you that. We're coming back in 3.
Article 8 under the European Court of Human Rights is actually a new article that's come about during the life of the court since it was founded. So there's activist judges creating new legislation. In the UK, we've got a cottage industry of human rights lawyers, chief of which is now the Attorney General, who's giving away, the architect behind the Chagos betrayal. We've been stitched up for decades by the left-wing establishment, and, reform will sort this out. Common sense will prevail.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back, 4:25. We're live across the UK. It's Wednesday afternoon. This is the home of free speech and common sense, as Donald Trump knows because he's used it. If you want to be on common sense in this station, not in this country. Honestly, the news today, Jez, does everyone realise that we're a small island and all these countries that don't want these other bleeding people are huge land masses? Possibly. Adrian in Woking says, Jez, Stella Creasy's comments are understandable if Paddington Bear identified as a human. Yes, Adrian, I get that, but she's not making any sense. Dennis is in Manchester. At least Paddington Bear learned English and integrated with the British people, which is more than can be said for most asylum seekers who come in on boats. Frankly, it's the latest embarrassing story from this bunch of inaccurately self-identifying as a competent government. Have a good show. I'm feeling depressed. John's in Maidstone. Jez, does that mean that the migrants get to meet the King? Very good. I like it. Sean in Kidderminster, which is near Birmingham but posh enough to be away. Regarding kids identifying as animals, this starts in the home. Parents or carers need to have a good look at themselves. Utter madness. Kids bringing up kids. I agree with Russell. It's child abuse. Interesting. Terry's in Slough, which is brave. I'm 75. Good God, man. And if stupidity was a league table, this useless, incompetent, bloody Labour government will be top of it. Couldn't agree more. Paul's in Dorset. Nice. The Gazans will be full of Hamas terrorists. Will you be able to tell which? Neither will the government. Karen, don't know where you are. Kids behaving like animals in schools. The UK border worker official that works in Finland. MPs saying we can identify as a llama and males can be females and a woman doesn't have a womb, it has a penis. I literally think we've entered the twilight zone. I couldn't agree more. 0344 499 1000. Text to 87222. When I tell you this stuff, people say to me after the show, are you making this up? No, I'm not. And you know the Stella Creasy story? This was given to me by the legend, my next guest. I mean, this was sent to me this morning by an incredulous Harry Cole, political editor of The Sun. This is real.
I just wish your listeners would just say what they really think. It's unbelievable, isn't it? They really hold back.
Why would they not? It's the only place here, never mind the ballot stuff,
Absolutely.
where people can say that damn well, Phil, because it's true.
You know what? I texted you that this morning, so I knew it would send you round the bend. And I looked like I've succeeded admirably in my task of winding you...
You sent me this about 10 o'clock this morning, and I've been raging ever since.
Honestly,
Was it a joke by Stella Creasy?
No, I thought it was a joke. I couldn't believe it. She actually said it on the radio, out loud.
Just tell people what she said, because they'll think I'm making this up.
Essentially, that we, under her own government's new, sort of vague clampdown on immigration and making it harder for people who come here illegally to stay, she said we'd have to send Paddington Bear back to Peru.
Now, you see, I know, and you've done this for years. So when you told me that, I went...
Yeah, but then she doubled down. She ran, because obviously everyone started laughing at her on social media, led by, I think, basically yours truly. And then she did another interview this morning and she defended it. And then she went on Twitter, X, what do we call it now, and had a go at me for taking the mickey out of her about it. She's deadly serious.
Had a go at you?
Yeah.
But this is, and I actually, my voice every day gets worse and worse. This is a elected member of Parliament. This woman...
It's not a real bear. It's a made-up story. Everyone's just gone around the bend. What is it with Peru this week? First of all, the llamas...
I've never seen Harry Cole so angry. He's shaking.
First of all, the llamas. You can identify as a llama, Peruvian long-necked camel cousin, whatever we call them, in the paper.
And the new health minister, forget 7 million people waiting for a queue. A woman can have a penis, and we should have same-sex toilets.
And if you want to be, if you're a llama, you've got to be treated with respect. And then Stella Creasy comes along with Paddington. Paddington, who, hasten to add, came here on a small boat, did time in jail. Little furry crook, isn't he?
Yes. Honestly, I can't believe we're having this bleeding conversation. And as if that wasn't enough, this is the Children's Society, an organisation that I've shown great respect for in the past. Literally have come out today and told us all that we're disgusting human beings and we should really be more respectful of children who identify as animals and walk on all fours. Now,
Furries. They're called furries.
Well, Russell Quirk nailed this for me. I've got 6 kids, as we all know.
Are any of them furries?
I'm being serious to you as a mate. If one of... You're laughing. They'd be in the bloody garden with a ting of cat food. You think I'm joking? It's a ridiculous load of crap. Are you joking
Kids
me?
these days, they're wild.
But that's child abuse. That's bad parenting. It's got to be, isn't it?
Look, I think, remember when we had sort of, you know, tomboys and you know, some boys want to wear dresses, let them, they grow out of it. The idea that we suddenly have to sort of bend their every whim just because they want to dress up as a cat, it's crackers. I was looking at that poll in the Times... Crackers. I was looking at that poll in the Times the other day. 11% of under 18 said they'd fight for this country. 50 of them say we're stuck in the past. 68% of them said I've got it. They're all these stats just come off the top of my head because I was asking Rupert Lowe about them earlier, and it's astonishing. Like that, just the next generation that's coming up on the way up. I mean, God help us.
I've told the story before on the show. My daughter, who's now at university, after, I think, 6 months of when she was 13 or 14, that's when they started the school, was 33 in the year, and after 6 months, 11 was seeing a child psychologist 5 years ago because they didn't know about their sexuality. Now, I'm going to say something a lot of people might disagree with. That's sheep-like behaviour. I don't believe those numbers. If you look at I don't believe it. That is just I don't understand
There's some really interesting research kicking around. I can't remember what it was a couple of years ago, but it looked at the declining rates of female anorexia in girls' schools, and basically one you know, broad brush summary of it is that, you know, one girl would get an eating disorder, and then peer pressure would mean that other girls would get it, and it would spread like that. Now that's gone down. Good. But what's gone up is the number of girls identifying as boys. Again, one of the cool kids does it, and it's social pressure that does it, and that's why the classrooms have got to be so hot on this stuff.
So today, 3 mad stories: the marmalade dropper, the let's be more empathetic to children who think that they're an animal, and the third and most ridiculous story before we get serious is that Labour's choice for the next borders watchdog. This is a John Tuckett. That's quite interesting, isn't it? He's 73. He's been named as the government's preferred choice. He's announced that he'd like to work from home in Finland. Honestly, does somebody sit in 10 Downing Street saying, I know how to hack Harry Cole off today, I'm just going to make some crazy... Sorry, what, so he's not going to even be here?
The Prime Minister's now told the House of Commons that he will, lo and behold, actually now be working from London, working from his desk.
That has to be
tell you what, this will send you bonkers.
Not anymore.
This was under the Tories, so they can crow all they like about the Norway guy, but under the Conservative Party... The permanent secretary of the Treasury, former permanent secretary of the Treasury, was allowed to work from home. Guess where he was?
Barbados.
Argentina. His wife was a senior official at the World Bank, and she worked from home. This is the guy, the #1 official at the Treasury, was working half his time in Argentina.
Don't cry for me.
Well, indeed. I've got a nice little bit of glass of Malbec and...
Unbelievable. It's always wine with you, isn't it?
A nice steak,
yeah. He's looking forward to everything. 0344 499 1000. 2 more serious things. I'd love your take on this, please. Palestinian migrants have been granted the right, this particular case this week, pointing out, to live in the UK after applying through a scheme meant for Ukrainian refugees. Now, on the one hand, I want to give you both sides. Yeah. People will say, we opened our homes and our hearts to Ukrainians. We could see what was happening. Many people would say, well, hold on a second, what's happening in Gaza displaced millions of people. Others will say, how do we know these are not Hamas terrorists people who are violent?
Look at the policy, the border policy towards Gaza refugees by their closest neighbours, the Egyptians and the Jordanians. They don't want, you know, Gaza is infested and flooded with the Muslim Brotherhood and Hamas. It just is.
It's a fact.
And they just don't want them going into the country. So, you know, we have to be incredibly careful about who we let into the country. Obviously, the Ukrainians were in an unprovoked attack. Let's not get into the sort of is one more worthy than the other, but there was a much stronger case for bringing civilians who are trying to flee Putin's aggression on the European continent to this country. And now through judicial overreach, some judge, just because politicians haven't specifically ruled out They had to list every single country that's not allowed to use the Ukrainian resettlement scheme, which has a really big clue in the title. It's for Ukrainians. And because apparently the MPs hadn't said that they weren't allowed to use it, then anyone can come in. And the Home Office are saying, well, this is going to open the complete floodgates. Anyone's going to be able to use it now. You've got these judges with massive overreach who are literally twisting every single possible legislation to allow our borders to be relaxed.
Can I tell you, you're the political editor of The Sun, I can tell you how to win the next general election. The number one thing is to walk the hell out of the ECHR in a heartbeat. We are paying taxes for loony left-wing lawyers to go to a judge who's going to use the ECHR, whether it's chicken nuggets or llamas or we can't go to the Caribbean. It's past a joke, and actually it's making a mockery of the judicial system, and it's making a mockery of genuine people in this country.
Also, the row that will come with leaving the ECHR, the political capital, the required to do it, we've talked about this before, the BBC, the Guardian, everyone's screaming, the judges, and we'll all be called fascists for it. And we'll go, oh, Russia's not in it. Well, nor is America, nor is Australia, nor is,
Yeah, that's all they say, Russia and Belarus.
Yeah, well,
name everywhere else.
Well, and America. I think what they should do, if they're going to do it, is you've got to lump in a whole load of other things as well. The Refugee Convention, various other sort of UN mandated stuff. This is what Donald Trump's done. He's just gone, you know what? Nope. We're not having that. But I think the row that we had to leave the ECHR wouldn't necessarily fix the problems alone, because they'll just use a different bit of international law or a different treaty we've signed to do it. There needs to be a complete, and this is what the Reform Rupert Lowe guy is saying, that I think they're heading towards in the next election, is having a sort of great repeal bill and say, look, we're leaving all of this, and we're going to promise to do it before the election. If you vote for us, we're going to do it. We've got a mandate. Bish, bash, bosh. I
asked Tice yesterday, actually, we'll talk about Never Mind the Ballots, your programme with Rupert in a minute. I said to him, a lot of people say it's all well and good, all of this hot air, and it's great and it's getting traction, but, Donald Trump is Donald Trump. The blob, right, which has increased by 10,000 since Labour came to power. These people are controlling government. Do you genuinely believe, I asked him, that he said, if we say that in our contract, we on day one, how are you going to get rid of these people? Because people have come on the show, Harry, and said to me the civil service are unsackable. How can they be unsackable? They're not elected by the British people.
They're pretty well unionised when you try to no one ever gets fired, just from the civil service. They just get promoted. Look, I think there are a lot of...
If I was Prime Minister, I'd get rid of most of them tomorrow.
For the defence, there is a lot of very, very good, hard-working people who make this country tick and run. There is, however, also some massively over-politicised people who feel it's their duty to protect policy in a way that they don't like. I think they all got the Home Office is a really interesting example, and we saw that leaked report a few weeks ago, didn't we? That said, they'd written this report for ministers, and it basically said, we should soften our immigration, do this and this and that. I think they were quite surprised actually when they got Yvette Cooper and the new Labour lot, that they weren't suddenly a load of massive open borders, let anyone in, call everyone far right. There's a bit of that, but they're not as soft as they thought it was going to be. I think some senior civil servants thought they were going to get something they really wanted, which was a complete, more Diane Abbott than Yvette Cooper. And they've come in now, and actually they're keeping the Tory policies on deportations. In fact, deportations are up 25%. They're doing those videos showing, the slightly gritty side of what it actually looks like to drag someone out of this country and put them on a plane.
Could not agree more.
And the civil service are going, well, hang on, we thought we were getting lefties, and actually we've got lefties that are worried about reform.
This week on Never Mind the Ballots, which is a fantastic watch, by the way. The Sun's... that's you, Harry.
No, thank you.
Joined by Rupert Lowe, one of the 5 Reform UK MPs. If I could just point out, all of these people in Reform, all have run businesses. They're quite strong. Let's have a quick look at what he said on the future of the European Union. This from Never Mind the Ballots. Have a watch.
I think Europe is now living its last dying sort of thrashings of life. I think it will disintegrate because it is a globalist construct, post-war socialist construct, which is going to implode. Germany is struggling financially and economically. France is bust. And you've got this sort of huge homunculus of countries which is dysfunctional. And I think it will fall apart.
Thank you very much indeed. They told me it was a lot longer than that. Never mind. How are we?
No, it was good. I mean, it was an interesting chat, actually. We let it run this week. So we had a sort of half an hour, 35-minute chat, just non-stop, which you don't
Good man,
get.
Rupert Lowe?
I think he is a really impressive guy, actually. Obviously, you know, most of our readers would have remembered him as the slightly controversial manager of Southampton Football Club. Chairman, sorry, yes. Lots of managers, one chairman.
Lots of managers, yeah. He sacked people quite regularly.
He did, and then poached the manager of his nearest rival down to then see them leave again. So, he's famous for that. But as a politician, I think he's fascinating. He doesn't have to do this. He's got loads of dosh. He's 67. He doesn't take a salary. He just... And then it's really interesting to have someone who's just a bit of, real life experience saying, well, I worked in business, or I worked at this bank, or this bank, and this bank, and this bank, or this football club, and that's just not how he did it.
Yep,
and then you wind someone up like a spring and you unload them into Parliament, which is basically run like I don't know, St Trinian's or something. It's like a Hogwarts-style thing with a load of mad, antiquated, bonkers rules, and it's really interesting to see him just, unleash on them. And almost, I think, we were talking about whether Britain needs a sort of Elon Musk figure. He's almost becoming the sort of doji type, it just takes the kid in the Emperor's New Clothes to stand there and go, hang on, that bloke's naked. And someone just has to stop and point and go, this is mental. And he's actually really doing a very good job at sort of being that person that goes, sorry, WTF.
I don't watch a lot of telly for obvious reasons, but never mind the ballots I do. You're a top man. We love having you on. Thanks for winding me up this morning.
Not at all. My mission in life is to wind you up.
He's very serious today. He's got the shirt on with no stripes on the collar. It's white cuffs, collars and cuffs. More of that later. Harry Cole, thank you very much indeed. This is Talk Drive. 21 minutes to 5 o'clock.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
20 to 5 on a Wednesday, we are deigned with the presence of in my mind, one of the greatest broadcasters of our generation. Mike Graham is in the building. Only because we just made another show already before.
We did.
How are you?
Indeed. Very well, thank you. Thank you for asking.
Ridiculous day. You've heard the Stella Creasy story.
I mean, Paddington Bear. Yeah. I was just actually thinking, maybe we should rebrand Paddington Bear as an illegal migrant. So what you do is you take out the clothes that he's got now. You get him a puffer jacket.
Yes.
That's what they get when they arrive.
North Face.
Give him a machete.
Zombie knife, maybe.
Zombie knife, yeah. Put him up in a hotel, maybe somewhere.
Not that hat. A baseball cap backwards.
Baseball cap backwards, yeah. Put him somewhere in a hotel in the centre of a town he's never been in before.
Some Reebok trainers.
Yeah, some Reebok trainers. Give him a credit card so he can buy stuff if he needs to, cigarettes, that kind of thing. And then Paddington Bear suddenly gets rebranded as, Paddington Migrant Bear.
Paddington Albanian migrant bear.
Yes.
Couple of voice notes. Take a
Go
breath.
on.
Chloe, on how we should show empathy to children identifying as animals on all fours. Go.
Does Stella Creasy know that Paddington is fictional? I mean, really, can you be that stupid? Where on earth are we going to be in another 4 years? Kids walking around on all fours, meowing and barking. Honestly, I think I'm just going to have to come off media and bury myself in a hole somewhere for the next 4 years.
There's the thought. Adam, on the state of this bloody country. Go.
It feels like we're living in an absolute fantasy land. And who knows, mate? We might wake up tomorrow and there might be some magic carpets. It's just absolutely madness.
Magic carpets?
Yeah. Well, I think they've been outlawed, haven't they, magic carpets?
You can't. That's disrespectful to genies.
Yeah, apparently, yeah.
Because if a man lives in a bottle, he might have to identify as a genie.
He might have to. And then I don't know where
probably doesn't like being rubbed.
Where that leaves you. I mean, the thing is, all of these ridiculous stories have been... I mean, they've basically created this ludicrous artificial world, which nobody in actual reality lives in.
Well, then let me ask you a serious note. So this week we've had a new health minister, as we both talked about earlier, says, you know, men can have a cervix, women can have a penis, toilets should be the same, people can identify as llamas. Today we've got an MP genuinely who's doubled down, Stella Creasy, saying, well, we treated Paddington Bear well, don't you think we should treat migrants well? All I hear about, probably because I sit on this station, all I hear about is people saying to me, this is madness, this is utter bloody madness. Why isn't it stopping, or is it stopping? Well, is there belief that it can go?
Well, do you know, I think the reason it isn't stopping is because this government believes all of that claptrap. You know, Keir Starmer is at the head of the queue of all of these people.
He genuinely believes it's okay to identify as a llama.
I bet he does, because, you know, he's so sure that he has to show respect to everybody, apart from the ordinary people of this country, the hard-working people of this country.
But this is my point, Mikey, he'll show respect to a llama, but not to a pensioner.
Exactly. He'll take the pensioner's allowance away, but he'll say, oh, but you can identify as anything you want. And in his heart of hearts, he actually does believe that some women can have a penis. He said that, even when he was finally
They can't.
No, of course not. Everybody knows that. But
I can't grow a cervix.
But it's like the Emperor's new clothes. You know, it's like they all live in this weird bubble where they don't want to offend themselves or offend others. I mean, I can't imagine. I mean, you talk about your dad. I can't imagine what my father would make of any of this. You know, he was in the Second World War. You know, he came home. He worked hard. He didn't make a fortune in his life, but he provided for his family.
Absolutely,
you know, he never asked for any money. No. He wouldn't even borrow money. He never had an overdraft in his life. No. You know, he said to me, you know, if you want to buy a camera, at one point I wanted to do, I said, I need you to sign a hire purchase agreement. He's like, you're not doing that. He said, you save up for it, you buy it when you got the money.
Do you know what he had? Do you know what the old girl had? They had a ledger, right?
Yeah.
An old brown ledger. I'll never forget it. She taught me ins and outs every month, debits and credits.
Yeah.
They were never in debt, right? But I remember after...
Well, because it was considered to be a sin,
I have to be really, really careful what I say, but after he died, which might sound sad, but it was hysterical on the day, a month later I drove past the care home and they were under new ownership with a rainbow flag hanging out the front saying, we welcome... He'd have just literally walked downstairs and gone, I can't even say it on air.
No,
I mean, it would have been thrown out because it was a different world, and yet all of that is trashed.
But we've allowed it to sort of seep into everyday life because of the public sector. You know, over in America, over this weekend, Accenture, one of the biggest consultancy firms in the world, right? They employ 800,000 people around the world. They announced that DEI is over for them.
Good.
They're sunsetting it. There's a new word for you.
What does that mean?
This is what they call it. We're sunsetting the DEI policy. It means we're phasing it out.
Are we allowed to say goes down like the sun?
You can say that if you wish, but yeah, so they basically said that all of the work that they've been doing for the last sort of, I don't know, 10 years, where they've been promoting people from diverse backgrounds, that's all going to stop. Where they've been promoting people because of their sexuality, that's all going to stop. Which tells me one thing: they never believed it. And the fact that they're now...
And did it work? No.
Well, no. It just made people resentful, effectively. I mean, there might be some people from diverse backgrounds who did better than they would otherwise have done, but I don't think anybody really seriously wants to be given a job based on, you know, their background or where they came from. Surely you get a job based on whether you can do it or not.
I would have thought so.
I don't care.
Listen, keep the calls coming, by the way. Mike's not going anywhere. 0344 499 1000. A quick voice note. Simon, on the madness in this country. Simon, go.
You do realise that this national and, in fact, international humiliation that is being put upon the British people has to happen. Don't forget, we are a few years behind America. You know, and this Labour government and the Tories before them have humiliated this nation. We have to go through it to to get a reform win in 2029. It has to get worse before it gets better.
I said that the other day, Mikey. I feel like we are at the beginning of Biden.
Yes.
And we've got 4 years before a saviour rides in on a horse.
I hadn't thought of it that way, but you're absolutely right, because the only good thing about what's happening in the world at the moment is Donald Trump getting in. Can you imagine how bad this lot would be in this country if it wasn't for him being in power? Because if Kamala Harris had got in, you know, with the cackling, you know, what the hell was that all about? You know, it's just ridiculous. But now they're having to be a bit more careful. You know, like they have to not go along with what the EU says. When the EU starts threatening Trump, they're kind of going, Starmer's going, I don't know, I don't think I can do that, so I better stay over here, you know, with the Americans. And so, you know, we could be in a much worse place.
Yeah.
But Starmer did say things will get worse before they get better, but we didn't know they were going to be this bad.
So that was your impression of Kamala Harris. Do you know what this is?
I do know what that is, because we've been doing this earlier in the afternoon on Plank of the Week.
That's a llama.
It's a llama. I don't know if that's an authentic sound that a llama makes. I'm
going to prove to you how hard-working Mike Graham is, OK? If you are watching on YouTube, this man is turning into a broadcasting legend, because I'm going to say to you, do you want... Listen, watch him change the screen, Tim. This is how good he is. Do you want to win £25,000? This, my friends, is how.
It's competition time, and we're giving you a chance to win a whopping £25,000. So what do you need to do to get involved? All you have to do is text the word prize to 83338, or you can enter by post. It's as simple as that. Once again, to get involved, just text the word prize to 83338, or you can enter by post.
18 plus, UK excluding NI. Enter by SMS for £2 plus one standard network charge by 11 p.m. on March the 3rd, 2025. Or send your name, email and contact number to £25,000 cash competition, PO Box 3190, Colchester CO2 8GP, to arrive by 5 p.m. on March the 6th, 2025. This is a News Broadcasting Network promotion. Full terms and conditions at talksport.com.
I think this human rights nonsense has just got completely out of control. And a bit like the legal profession, throughout history, every now and again, they get half a cut above themselves. And I think they're rather more than half a cut above themselves now. And you can't move without having a lawyer now. And that is basically clogging up the arteries of commerce, which has to stop.
Well, it is actually the most damaging thing that any society can be faced with, is too many lawyers, you know, absolutely unbelievable.
across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
The man who works 24 hours a day, the legend that is Mike Graham. You ready for a Becky? Becky on Paddington, go.
I've just realised that there's a link between all these things. Peru. Paddington came from Peru. Llamas come from Peru. I've just looked Peru up. Maybe the next thing will be we'll discover that we own Lake Titicaca and Machu Picchu, and we can give it away to the Mauritians for, let's say, £1 trillion?
People are getting it, aren't they?
They are.
And
they
because
are.
people are hacked
because
up.
people are so fed up with this absolute and utter relentless bilge that we're getting from this
During the
government.
outbreak, I said to
Can't
Mike,
do anything.
We're a news channel, right? During this week, my week has centred, and I'm not even joking, on chicken nuggets, llamas, and an MP saying that we're treating migrants like Paddington Bear.
Yeah.
That's the reality of the people that are
it's
running
like a
this
parallel
country.
universe, isn't it? And
Absolutely.
what about the guy, I'm sure you've talked about on the show already, who wants us to offer an invitation to anyone from Gaza who might want to come and live here? How on earth we're going to tell whether they're from Hamas or not is anybody's guess, but why don't we just invite them all here and then we can just get closer to...
Somebody already said to me on text, you're being really unfair. These people, have been displaced, they haven't got a home. How do we know that they're not terrorists?
Well, we
because
don't.
basically that's what Gaza's infested with,
Well,
isn't
exactly right, and that's the problem. And you can't suddenly say to somebody, I mean, here's what the Home Office would do. It's, excuse me, you want to come and live here, do you? Are you a terrorist? No. OK, in you come. I mean, that's what they would do.
And more than that, which Harry Cole, I thought, made a great point, Egypt and Jordan, their neighbours, they want nothing to do with it.
No.
So why is that then?
Well,
so why is it our responsibility?
Because, Jordan has had experience of having the Palestinians there before, and it didn't go very well.
No.
And their fear, of course, is that if they take everybody in from Palestine, that will just become the new Palestine, and it will be the new Hamas running the new Palestine, and nothing will really change. But the King of Jordan was in the White House yesterday, and he was making some quite interesting noises about what Donald Trump was saying about Gaza and redeveloping it, and he was basically saying it's the first time he's seen a decent idea, because it is a decent idea.
Let's go to Shropshire. Have you been to Shropshire ever?
I think I've been through it.
Lots of sheep there.
Yeah.
Andy's a new caller. Andy, on Talk Drive. 2 minutes. What you got?
Hi. I can't see any sheep at the moment, but this is the first time I called in. I love the show.
Very kind. Did we pay you to say that, or did you just say that?
No, not at all, not at all. No, I just I'm 57 years old. I make no bones about that. I've grown up in the sort of late 90s, if you like, and into the 2000s, and I just get this. I wish to a point that I hadn't seen quite how good it was then, in comparison to what it is now, because it gives me this overwhelming feeling of sadness. I've gone through the anger, I've gone through the despair. I just feel really, really sad that our country is losing its identity. It's been eroded so fast in front of our eyes. And I just feel that I voted, I'm sort of what you call a swing voter. I voted Labour early on in the 90s. I vote for who I think is going to be good for me at the time, which I guess we all do to a point. But now I just think, well, where am I going to go now? Because I voted Reform the last time because I didn't see any other option. But are they going to be the answer going forward, given the way that the political regime is set up, if you like? Because
All I would say to that is, I tell you, whether I don't know what Mikey thinks is, whether Reform have the policies or they have the nous to do it. I believe the great British public have seen flip-flopping Labour and Tories for so many years that they're actually looking at a bunch of people with business experience and life experience and thinking, do you know what? What could be worse than the crap we're going through right now, Mikey?
Yeah, absolutely right. I think the main thing for Reform and for Nigel Farage is that they have to make a proper organisation out of it. I think they've got a press conference going on
4:30.
And at the end of the day, surely they can get enough decent people with enough decent brains to run this place better than a bunch of lying, conniving, money-grabbing, in it for themselves, half-wits. That's what we've got.
I agree with you, Andy. All of those politicians who are elected right now, just 5 of them, have all been successful in business. They've run companies, and they're not scared of making decisions. And what Nigel Farage has is this ability to communicate with the public of all ages better than any politician in this country, doesn't he, Mike?
And he talks like Donald Trump does. Donald Trump, like when he was going on about the plastic straws, people were going, yay, this is exactly the kind of conversation we want to have.
Because paper straws melt and
they
crap.
Melt, they're rubbish, right? And that's what everybody just needs to hear the truth, because politicians don't tell us the truth in this country. They just don't.
James, I tell you, Andy, rather, I called him James, that depresses me even more. You have a home here, because we ain't giving up the fight, led by Mikey in the mornings. We're not. On this station, it's about common sense and speaking the truth, and there will be people that like that. A lot of people go, oh, it's terrible. But increasingly large numbers of people go, thank God there's somewhere that does speak the truth, you know? Appreciate your call, Andy. Thank you very much indeed. Anything coming up on breakfast? The marmalade dropper, no doubt? Stella Creasy. Why doesn't somebody get Stella Creasy on? She wouldn't come on, would she?
Well, Labour have stopped coming on with us altogether. I mean, I don't know whether you've tried to get any of them on, but I mean, you know, every morning I see somebody else from the Labour government on various other stations.
It's interesting, because when I did breakfast, they said that I promise you that when we get into power, we'll come on talk every day.
Yeah, isn't that funny? Yeah, I mean, I've had, I think,
rubbish.
I think we've had 3 Labour politicians since they got into power.
I cannot tell you this enough, not just because he's one of my best mates. If you don't and haven't watched or listened to Mike in the morning from 6 o'clock, it's absolutely a must. It's a light drive, and like the shows across the day, Kev as well, it's about you lot, right? It's not about sitting and talking at you for 4 hours.
No.
It's involving the audience, right?
And also, we don't take any old cobblers from these politicians. I mean, the Tories come on, we give them a hard time. Yeah. You know, if Reform come on, if they do something we don't like, we'll give them a hard time. You know, it's not about being tribal anymore. It's about being honest and loyal to the people of the country. That's who we represent.
Do you like marmalade sandwiches?
I'm not a big fan of marmalade. I don't mind it.
No.
It's not something I eat very often.
If one of your children came in and was on all fours, dressed as a furry, what would you do?
I'd tell them to stand up and get out of the clothes and grow up. Otherwise, it'll stop.
Not do what I do, put them in a garden in a kennel with some dog food for a month and hope they freeze to bits. Honestly, I'm not joking, it drives me mad. He is back tomorrow morning from 6 a.m. Thank you, Michael Graham. You're a legend.
Thank
The
you.
Blank of the Week. When does it drop this week? Fridays?
Valentine's Day special.
Please don't miss it.
You
Peter
don't want to miss it.
Blexley has got 14 roses in strange positions. We've got the news at 5. If you want to be on, head to Dr. Bob Seeley on Tour Drive 0344 419 1000. Text to 87222. Start your message with the word talk. I'm off for a wee. I'll see you in 3.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hour 2 of Drive for Wednesday afternoon. I've had 2 custard creams and a wee. I'm trying to motivate myself to get through the next 2 hours without self-imploding, because this world, this country is going barking mad. As I said before the break, so far this week on Drive Time, we've discovered that the new health minister of the Labour Party thinks it's OK to identify as a llama. That's not unfair. Today we've discovered that a Labour MP thinks it's right to stand up in the House of Commons and say, I think we should be nicer, and this is true, by the way, if you're just tuning in, nicer to our migrants because we did allow Paddington Bear to come here. And yesterday we discovered that you can stop being deported from this country even if you're a criminal if your child doesn't like the chicken nuggets they might give to you in Albania. I jest not. We're going nuts. 0344 499 1000. Your text messages. Thank you so much indeed. Loads of them. We'll get to the mark in Beccles. Is it Beccles or Eccles? Eccles is a cake, which gives you wind. Jez, if the belief is you can identify as whatever you want, then surely I can identify as a pensioner and draw my pension even though I'm only in my 50s. Yes, but Mark, you'll probably freeze to death because you've got no heating. Robin Lincoln, good afternoon. I'm new to talk radio and I'm lovely. Right, OK. Slightly self-deprecating. What does that mean? I'm lovely. Listen to you on my drive home every day. With all this nonsense of people identify as whatever they want, what is stopping someone identifying as a younger age or basically anything? You've opened up a big old can of worms, says Robin Lincoln. I agree. Lisa Clements, Stella Creasy has to be plank of the week. What a week. Llamas, nuggets and Paddington. It's exactly what I'm saying to you, mate. Bernie Gowler. I hope I've got that right. I nearly said growler. Never mind. Now it proves Disney. I think Disney has taken over our parliament, says Bernie in Hartlepool. I couldn't disagree more. I'm in agreement. Roger Thomas Evans, perhaps the balmy minister who's going to work from home, identifies as a border terrier. Honestly, it's getting ludicrous. Noah Burton. Usually he sends in his messages 2 by 2. That was so crap, I don't know why I did it. Noah from Padstow. Maybe illegal migrants could identify as Paddington Bear. What a load of marmalade. Mate, I'm not even joking. Mick. The Common Sense Committee demand that all lawyers must be barred from ministerial office and cabinet posts. The world will be a better place. Chris is in the delightful Littlehampton. How are you? Leaving the ECHR is the key to this migration debacle and the only party's reform that will do this. The Tories have had time to leave and choose not to. I feel for the country and for my kids' future. Hello to Pete in Lincolnshire. Great show. The Ukrainians are not demonstrating on the streets every week and are not trying to take over our country or change our democracy. That's the difference between allowing Ukrainians and Palestinians in. And Chris Gillard, finally for now. You were just discussing civil servants. I've just waited 41 minutes to speak to somebody at the DWP. Then they cut me off without speaking to me, and the lines now say that they've gone home for the night. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the United Kingdom in 2025. What a country to be proud of. And just to throw this into the mix before I bring my next guest on, I've just been handed a piece of paper. Breaking news on Talk. Oh, God. Analysis of Home Office data by an academic has revealed that yoga teachers, dog walkers and DJs are among the categories of overseas workers eligible to apply for a UK skilled working visa. What do you do? I'm a dog walker, really? Yeah, you can come in. What do you do? I'm a DJ. Got any decks? No, I left them at home. You can come in as well. Delighted to be joined now. This is fantastic. Good afternoon, and we say a very good afternoon to the legend is Dr. Bob Seeley, former Tory MP. How are you, sir?
I'm very well. Good afternoon, Jeremy. Good afternoon to your listeners and viewers.
I'm going nuts, Bob, but I'm going to start seriously because there's some breaking news. Donald Trump, it's just been announced, has held a call with Vladimir Putin. Trump has said that they have both agreed to start negotiations on ending the war in Ukraine. Now, we all know Donald Trump is his own PR machine. He says, though, I've spoken to Putin and we have both agreed to start negotiations on ending the war. Your response, Bob Seeley, to that on Talk Drive?
The starting negotiations means very little. Because it's got to end, because that doesn't mean it's going to end the war. And the problem is there's nothing in this for Putin. Putin doesn't want to live in peace. If he wanted to live in peace with Ukraine, he wouldn't have invaded. Putin wants to destroy Ukraine, and the only reason that he might stop now is that he'll find a better non-military way of destroying it through corruption or espionage or assassination or all the other tools of hybrid war that they've been using. I think he'll string Trump along because he will want to analyse what Trump is doing, what Trump's game is. Will Trump get bored? Will he outlast him? Will he get assassinated? So there's an awful long way to go. And do I think there's going to be peace this year? I think on balance, probably not. But the Russians may run out of money and may run out of men next year. They're dead and injured, probably about 750,000 by now. Vast, I mean, unbelievable numbers. But there's an awful long way to go.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because Trump would have us believe, I suspect, judging by that message, that, you know, he's able to play these important people and get the end to the stuff that he wanted. Talked about the Middle East, and if the hostages aren't returned by midday, all hell will break loose. That seems to have moved that. But it's the substance, isn't it, afterwards?
I mean,
really?
just on that point, I'll give you an example. Let's say that Trump really leans on the Ukrainians and says, give up land permanently. I was out there at the end of last year writing a book. All the soldiers that I talked to said, if they're giving up something temporarily to save more lives, fair enough. But if they are losing that territory permanently, there is a significant risk that will start a real civil implosion in Ukraine. And Trump may not see that, but Putin will be all over Trump's psychology, all over the angles on this. And the danger is if Trump goes in there, and, you know, I've got time for him. He says some dumb things and he's doing some good things. So, but if Trump goes in there being the big I am, Putin is in danger of playing him very successfully. And if Ukraine collapses into civil war or civil conflict, because they've given up land permanently, and all these soldiers are going to say, what did my mates die for? Putin is going to get his way by destabilizing that country. And then the next time he goes in, it'll be more difficult to get Ukrainians to fight to defend themselves.
So much to talk to you about, Bob. That's the current situation. Breaking news about Trump and Putin. Overnight, story of a Palestinian migrant being granted leave to live in the United Kingdom after applying through a scheme meant for Ukrainian refugees. There's sort of, I have to give both sides. Some people, of course, texting and going, well, hold on a second. You talk about opening the doors to Ukrainians, Jez, your family homes and whatever, because they were escaping a war-torn country. Palestinians are escaping mass destruction and nowhere to live. But many more texts going, how do we not know an area that is infested with the madness that is Hamas, that we're not going to end up with yet more criminals and possibly terrorists in the United Kingdom at a time when almost every part of this country is straining at the leash, Bob Seeley?
I quite agree with the people making that latter point. I don't think, look, you know, I really lose the will to live when I listen to these imbecilic stories about these absurd judges granting, you know, leave to remain or asylum to somebody because they had a headache on the day they applied, or, you know, because they found a nice great auntie who likes them in Cambridge or so. I just don't know. This is just crazy stuff. We should be, frankly, ending mass immigration. You know, those who criticise the previous Conservative government, sadly, they're right. We didn't. We lost the plot for a couple of years, and we paid for it absolutely dearly. One of your listeners was saying, I think he pinged you to say only Reform will pull out the ECHR. I don't think that's true. I think the Conservatives will absolutely pledge it, because many of us wanted to do it.
Well, under Kemi Badenoch, you think they will? I don't think they will under Badenoch.
No, absolutely we will, because many of us actually wanted that to happen. There is going to be a nuance over Northern Ireland, because it is heavily implicated, or part of the Northern Ireland, the Good Friday peace accords. But we have got to find a way to decouple ourselves from the ECHR. We've got to scrap human rights legislation. The point that Kemi makes, and it's a really important one, and it just goes beyond more than it's some useless slogan. You know, just pulling out the ECHR when you've got all the Blairite era Human Rights Act and all these other acts is not going to change anything. You need to overhaul the entire system, and that's more than just ECHR.
I get that, and actually try doing this every day. I mean, you just said it, you know, these imbecilic rules. If you've got people who are struggling, and I speak to them every day, who have, and I make no apology, people will go, he's going to say it again. Yeah, pay the taxes, don't break the law, I've never had a handout. I mean, in this week, this show, which is a news show, hear me out, on Monday, we've got a new health minister who says you can identify as a llama, OK, and we'll look after you, and a woman can have a penis. Then we discover that people stay in this country, hear me out, right, because their son doesn't like nuggets in Albania, or their husband would be too hot in the Caribbean. And today we've got an elected MP saying we should treat migrants as we treat Paddington Bear. And Bob Seeley, you're a top man, but is it any wonder why the British public are going, are you absolutely joking with our politicians? It's an embarrassment, man.
Mate, I am a member of the great British public, and I tell you, I'm as frustrated by this imbecilic situation as anyone. Stella Creasy banging on about, well, we let in Paddington Bear. I mean, I don't know whether to laugh or cry. The worst
she doubled down on it, you know. Everybody thought it was a Mickey tape, but she doubled down.
And maybe she thinks Paddington's, I don't know, from Gaza. I don't know. But the health secretary, yeah, the worst thing about the health secretary was not the fact that, you know, she's got mates who think they're human llamas. But actually, if you look at some of her tweets, when they were talking about fascism, she was saying, she basically implied that the US and the UK were her definition of what fascist states would look like. Nobody cottoned on to that because everyone was laughing at her imbecility over the llama stuff. But I mean, really, you know, I don't know what these people are doing in power, and I wish we'd been harder on this when we were in power, for sure.
Did you hear what I read just coming out the news? I was handed this again from the Telegraph, just dropped. Yoga teachers, dog walkers and DJs are among the categories of overseas workers eligible to apply for UK skilled work. And how does anybody prove that? You're a DJ, yeah, right, you can come in.
Yeah, no, I quite agree. We were tightening it up. We should have done more. We should have done it earlier, but now it's going to be loosened again under Labour. Look, I think Labour they're starting to get wise. So they're doing this pretense of we're going to be tough, but actually beneath the headlines, they will be a disaster. There's no doubt about that.
And is it frustrating as a Tory, by your own admission, that you didn't do enough, that the British public, with respect, and Tories will disagree with this, but I'm telling you on the streets, this is right, they're still not listening to the Tory party, they're listening to Reform. They are.
Yeah, look, I think Reform are going to get a very easy ride, and I do think that's okay. Is it fair? Is it unfair? You know, it's not for me to say, but I hope people will start listening to us quite soon if they're not already. But we'll keep on making that point. I think the difference is, Jeremy, anyone can have a slogan, but actually trying to think things through a problem. You know, you can just shout pull over ECHR. That is not necessarily going to do it might undermine the Northern Ireland Peace Treaty, but worse, it may not actually achieve what we want to achieve. So, do I want to pull out of ECHR? Yes, if it means stopping mass immigration and stopping the absurdity of all these idiotic judicial decisions, for sure. But there's a lot, as you know, because you've talked about with lots of experts, lots of human rights acts, this act and that act, all these things from the Blairite era, we need to withdraw. We just need to abolish those. And if you're going to do this stuff, you have to do it in order.
I completely agree.
Effectively, have a Reform Act and a Repeal Act for all this bad law, and then you can start shutting down these processes.
It's just ridiculous, though, when you sit and you do what I do, and you have people ringing, and you think about every single blockade that is put in the way of what seems to be common sense. Great to have you on, by the way. We told you for 10 minutes and more breaking news. Trump had held a call with Putin. They've agreed to start negotiations. Russia has just confirmed that President Putin, Bob Seeley, has invited Trump to Moscow for further conversations as soon as is possible. Interesting?
Yeah, look, Putin is an old Cold War warrior, and for him, having the US doing this sort of big, I'm carving up the world with Trump, it reminds him of the grand old days of the Soviet Union. It makes him look like the big I am. It makes the sort of lumpen Russian electorate think, you know, we're tough. You know, we haven't got any bread, we haven't got any heating. You know, almost as badly off as a British pensioner under Labour. But, you know, we're still a great country because we've got nuclear weapons. We're inviting Trump to Moscow. So all this sort of stuff is going to play very well in the Russian media. Whether it amounts to a hill of beans, I'm not quite sure, but it'll look good, and Putin will play it for all it's worth, and they will use this time to understand and play Trump and, you know, flatter his ego and actually get him to press the Ukrainians to do something really stupid, like in perpetuity give up their land, to really press and trying to cause an implosion in Ukrainian society. You know, the Russian forms of warfare, it's not just about tanks and throwing men at the front lines in large numbers. It's about, you know, psychology, the battle over the mind, and whether you collapse your enemy from within. So you've got this psychological warfare that combines with military warfare. This is what the Russians are good at, and they're going to play they're going to play Trump for all it's worth, and they're going to try to get him to do something really quite useful for them and very bad potentially for the Ukrainians. And it's going to be difficult for the Ukrainians to manage this.
Let's just keeping it on that for a sec. News in the last couple of hours that Trump's new Defence Secretary, Pete Hegseth, says that America cannot be relied upon to guarantee the security of Europe from Russia because it has to focus on its own borders and the threat of China. He said, ruled out using US troops to uphold a peace deal in Ukraine. NATO headquarters, he said this was, I mean, this has rocked people, really, to be honest, because, of course, Europe has always relied on on America. Trump being very vocal in how he considers the trade relationship and the defence spending and all those things. And there are many people who actually agree with him. I don't disagree with him, to be honest, but where are you on this?
Look, I mean, the Europeans have spent 20, 30 years tut-tutting at the Americans whilst living under their nuclear and military umbrella. Yeah. And the reason why we've had a safe world is largely because of American, but also British and NATO power. So we should be, you know, I think pretty thankful that the US exists. And the world is a much better place for the existence of the United States, whether you particularly like Trump or not. I do think, I mean, it's a shame Hesketh is saying it, but I totally understand why. We have got to do more in our own defence. Europe is a really rich place with really fat welfare programmes that arguably aren't doing those societies much good, and we're not defending ourselves enough. We should be taking on, you know, we should be supplying and arming the Ukrainians whilst the US takes on China and takes on other things as well. So we should be doing more. The Americans are correct.
I could not agree more. And just finally, before you go, and I know this is something close to many MPs and ex-MPs' hearts, the government's anti-terrorism programme, Prevent, has been roundly criticised in many instances. Axel Rudabikana, the Southport killer. Today, it comes out that Sir David Amess, a fantastic MP, whatever side of the house you're on, David Amess was a legend. The killer was exited from the government's Prevent programme too quickly, and its handling of him was suboptimal, a reviewer said. This is not at Starmer's door, this is before, but I'm just asking you, as a man who knows a lot about the military and a lot about security, what's your take on Prevent? It seems to have not that much impact, and when you hear of the sad death of innocent people, it's going to come rightly under focus, isn't it?
Yeah, I'd say this much about, you don't see the good work that Prevent does.
Okay.
And the problem is, and you're going to say this is actually makes your argument, because it does. The problem is when you've got tens of thousands of radicalised Islamicists in the country, they can't keep an eye on every single one. What you're thinking and about to say is, well, we shouldn't have let them in. Spot on. I completely agree. But Prevent can't deal with the wider issue. They're just dealing with keeping tabs on people, where I do think Prevent have got it wrong. And Shawcross, who did that very good report a couple of years ago, completely highlighted this, is that the definition of far right is way too broad, and the definition of a dangerous Islamicist is far too narrow. That's why you have some absolute plank, some idiot in the Home Office saying watching Great British Railway Journeys with Michael Portillo marks you out as being on the far right. I presume also anyone who's got, you know, reservist or soldier, ex-soldier, no doubt, according to the Home Office, would be dangerous and far right as well, or any example of sort of obvious patriotism and love for this country, no doubt parts of the Home Office would view as being far right. This is part of the problem of this country. We've lost our way with patriotism. We've lost our way with our identity. We need to start working on this and getting this back, because as we've seen, the judges, too much of the media, it is basically run by a woke cabal who are the enemies of the people of this country. I don't mean that literally. I'll be careful with my language, but they behave like their value system is very, very different from the rest of this country, and we need to reclaim our state, and I hope we can do so at the next election.
I've got to say this, Bob, I love having you on this station. You speak from the heart and you speak common sense, and we really do appreciate it. Bob Seeley, former Conservative MP and military expert, and if you get a chance, author of Total War, about the new forms of warfare in the 21st century. Yeah, it was serious, but it's happening in the world with Trump and with Putin. We'll keep you updated. We'll no doubt get back to the madness of people identifying as furries and being able to avoid deportation. Unlike Paddington Bear, if you like nuggets from Albania. 0344 499 1000. Talk drives on.
You know, and I know, and your viewers know, if this had been somebody from any other political party, it would have been Keir Starmer and the Labour Party who would have been leading the charge, saying they have to be shown the door.
Yeah, but it was just disdain for the voters generally. And I mean, that's the worst sort of result that Keir Starmer can have, because it led to people like me having conversations about, is this what they really think of us? Is this what they really think of you?
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
5:25 Wednesday afternoon. We're live across the UK. In a tick, my favourite guest of the week, Alicia Fitzgerald. First, though, a voice note from Sally on the madness of this bloody country. Go.
Oh, I'm sick of being on all fours with no one to talk to. Oh, hello, Paddington. I'm a llama today. Can I spit on you? Oh, not marmalade sandwiches. You want chicken nuggets instead? Oh, dear. Well, I don't know what to do. Well, you could always go to Finland and meet Mr. What's his name? Lockett? I don't know. But he's going to be in charge of the borders, so everybody can come in. Oh, this is a wonderful country to live in.
My God, that has to be the... Just save that. I'm playing that for the rest of my life. Sally, Alicia Fitzgerald, how good was that?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't know where it was going to go at several points, which means it was really good, kept me on my toes.
Listen, the point is, and I mean, you're a serious news journalist, or you pretend to be, I was going to say. But, I mean, soon to be a married woman. But listen, I know.
I'm not.
Yeah, you are. Maybe Valentine's Day, James, the big question coming. What do you reckon?
Well, I'm going to turn this around on you. How's your wife?
She's good,
You stop asking me about mine.
Yeah, but
not
this
my
is
wife.
a new...
I don't have a wife.
You've got a wife, there we go.
Wife.
And later, Alicia Fitzgerald will identify as a llama. We've been talking about the madness of this country, and I wanted your response to this, because I was looking at this week of this show, and this is a new show. We've just spent 20 minutes talking to Bob Seeley about the situation with Putin and with Trump. Dominating the news this week is a new health minister who says you can identify as a llama. A bunch of people who have got out of being deported despite the fact that he's a criminal who owes hundreds of thousands of pounds by saying his son doesn't like chicken nuggets. And today, in what I thought was a joke, when Harry Cole rang me at 9 o'clock this morning to wind me up, I thought the Stella Creasy thing was a joke. No, she's doubled down on it. An elected member of Parliament saying, we treat Paddington Bear better than we treat migrants. And I'm being serious, how do you, as a serious political journalist, view what is fast becoming, I think, we're a laughingstock with this stuff? I really genuinely believe that.
Yeah, and I do think... Sorry, I've got my own voice shouting at me in my ears.
Do you want to turn it down? Do you know... I don't want you to be upset and traumatised, because you'll get anxiety and be off for a month or something, won't you? And then identify as a...
Don't generalise, relax.
Oh, here we go. She's scaring me.
I think the issue is at the moment there's so much wrong that's really serious in our country, and so many people actually thought before the election that finally the kind of jokey ridiculousness of the last few years was going to be put aside. We'll actually have some serious politics and everything will get fixed and sorted. So when this kind of rhetoric is continuing, people just put their head in their hands. They're just like, I just want my potholes fixed. I want to be able to go to the GP.
I mean, I think you're absolutely right. And actually, what's really interesting is that we were told it was going to be grown-up politics. It wasn't going to be jobs for the boys. It was going to be politics done properly. And you cannot blame the media, and you cannot blame... This government has become a laughingstock. When you've got a woman saying, well, there are 7 million people, Alicia, waiting to see a doctor, and yet she's saying it's OK, we should be respectful to people who want to identify as a llama. When you can stay in this country by lying and finding a loophole, people are... I mean, I find myself, and I'm probably going to fall off my chair when I tell you this, the Tories were appalling. But even their last few months wasn't as embarrassing. Well, it was embarrassing, but this is... I wake up every day. This is like pennies from heaven for somebody trying to do a show. I don't know what the Labour Party is thinking. I mean, the latest thing I got 10 minutes ago from the Telegraph is that yoga teachers, dog walkers and DJs are among the categories of overseas workers eligible to apply for a UK skilled workers visa. So, are you a dog walker? Yes, you can come in. Are you a yoga teacher? Yes. Do you want to show me your... No, come in, you can do...
Show me your headstand at the immigration office.
Roll another fat one, Jesse, you're in as well. I mean, the whole thing's... That was me doing a DJ. Did you notice that?
Please don't have a career change.
You start the song, I'll start the car. Many a disc golf goes down. But it is frightening, isn't it? And I think what really is interesting is... And I don't know whether you get the feeling, doing the job you do, but there seems to be a groundswell. I know we still live in this woke world, but there seems to be a groundswell amongst what I call the mainstream moderate people, that it really is time for common sense to prevail. Do you get that feeling or not? Maybe I'm missing the point. Maybe it's being on this station.
Yeah,
what do you think?
I mean, I do. I think that it's still... The country's still very divided on things like that. The idea of, you know, common sense and getting back to your values and your morals versus a more kind of progressive, modern idea of what that might be. That divide is still very much there.
Is it?
It is, but
progressive,
I think
modernised, you can identify... This is what I want help with. You're a younger generation. How is saying you can identify as a thing, or saying to children, do you know what? If you want to be an animal and you want to come to school on all fours, right? We've always been honest with each other. You think I'm a dinosaur. I'm 60. If a child... You'll laugh at me, right? My child's not going to school on all fours pretending to be a lion or a dog. I put it in the garden for a month, and honestly, and I find it... I honestly find myself getting embarrassed on a daily basis.
I had this conversation with some people I know, so kind of, you know, my generation, whatever, my secret generation, because I'm not going to reveal my age.
Are you Gen Z?
Maybe.
You're 30 what?
I'm not telling you. Hold on.
Come on, get on with it. Why not?
Anyway, point
You're 26,
being,
aren't you?
I asked someone else what they thought about this, and they kind of said, oh, well, what she was obviously trying to say is that we care too much about what people are identifying themselves as, and it's not really important. And I kind of said, yeah, that's true, but also she is a member of parliament, so you kind of have to be careful with your speech, and probably using the analogy that you can just identify as a llama was a bit of a silly thing to say.
But what I guess I'm trying to say to you is, does the media... God, I'm sounding like Trump. Do people that speak these things, do they know what the average person out of your Islington bubble, not you, you know, do they know what Betty and Berry thinks? Because the woman that just sent that voice note, Sally, that is actually what most people in this country are now thinking, which is, this is just taking the mickey now. This is embarrassing.
Yeah, and I mean, I think the answer to that question would probably be no, judging by lots of the actions. But on the plus, there has been some good news, I think, this week. Well, in terms of things
Tell
that
me what?
Well, the migration bill was debated in Parliament, that got voted through, and that basically is voting for tougher rules on illegal migration. So if you want to have a positive, there is
talk on the basis of you saying that, and I do, you're right to a degree there. What do you make of the Gazans given rights to live in the UK? As an example in the papers today of a Palestinian migrant who's been granted the right to live in the UK after applying through a scheme meant for Ukrainian refugees. I said to Bob Seeley, some people have texted and gone, well, we looked after people escaping the war in Ukraine. Many others are saying, but Gaza is infiltrated and infested with Hamas terrorists, so how do we know who's coming into this country?
I mean, I actually think that's less the key point in this. The fact is that they used a scheme that was specifically meant for one nation, which they weren't meant to use, yet it's still, after a couple of appeals, they managed to get through. I think the important thing to say here, though, is this isn't actually technically the government's fault. I mean, it's their fault that the loophole existed, but the fact that this specific family managed to get through, that was dealt with by lawyers and the UN and all
That'd be the first rule that I'd bring in if I was the Prime Minister of this country, that lefty lawyers, right, not funded by the taxpayers. I mean, it's the ECHR again, and all these balmy examples this week. And we've talked before. I thought what this country did with Ukraine was absolutely right and spot on. When I saw visions of people being bombed, and now others will say to me, but it's like that in Palestine. Well, talk to Jordan and talk to Egypt, because this country's creaking. This country's public services are really, really struggling, and I think that is why people get really frustrated. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think that's the issue. I don't think anyone who wants tougher rules on who comes here. Well, I'm sure actually some people might think this, but that's not the general consensus. no one's saying that people who go through suffering shouldn't have a chance to have a life somewhere else or be rescued. You know, if your whole country is war-torn, clearly you can't live there and have a stable life, and that's not your fault.
Why the United Kingdom
That's
always?
the thing. It's that people kind of are like, we've done our bit, shouldn't another place do that bit?
And do you know what's really interesting, to say this to a Gen Zer, and I mean this totally out of respect, what those people will always say to me is, but we are a country built on humility and we've always done the right thing and it's very important, but we can't afford it anymore, Alicia, right? That's what I think. I think that, you know, apart from the ideology, which is crap, people need to get realistic, and whether people like this or not, right? If my mother, who's dead, so this doesn't relate to her, well, I mean, it's a fact. If she can't see a doctor at 80, she'd ring me up and go, but I can come here and get a hotel and see a doctor the next day. And all the people that poo-poo this are really, politicians as well, are missing the point with that. I really do think so. So, listen, always good to have you here. Do you want to be here while I take a call from Jeffrey? Do you want to
go on.
Do you want to?
Yeah, I mean, if it's going to be as good as that voice note from Sally earlier, then definitely
well, he's under the cosh now. In Essex, Jeffrey, you're on Talk Drive, and Alicia Fitzgerald has got you on. Well, you're under pressure here. So, what do you want to say?
Okay, Jeremy. Just by way of background, I've been a voter since the mid to late 60s, and this is the worst government I've ever known in my entire voting career. But what I wanted to say to you was, all this nonsense about llamas, my wife's got a good suggestion for dealing with people who want to identify as a llama. We live about half an hour or so from Colchester Zoo. I'm sure there's plenty of space there. We could set up a nice enclosure for those identifying, stick them all in, all the people that want to identify as a llama, put it in there, and then we'd make this bloody idiot Lord Harmer, whatever his name, as the zookeeper. And I think that would deal with them, don't you?
Possibly. Very good. Jeffrey in Essex. I mean, he's making... This is how bad it's become, isn't it?
Yeah, well, if there's
What
not
would
enough
you
houses-
identify with this if you weren't trying to identify as a political journalist?
Not a llama, I don't think.
Well, what do you see
Ooh.
yourself as? I'd be a sort of film movie
Cantankerous
stud.
old...
Oh, hold on a minute. A cantankerous old git.
I was going to say
Is that
git,
what you
but-
think?
Yeah.
Do you?
Yeah, I was just, just putting it out there.
You would be a talented news-reading television presenter.
Oh, thank you. Make me feel bad.
And Ryan would identify as a giraffe, and because he is that lanky. Should we go? We'll say thank you to Alicia Fitzgerald, but we're going to leave you as we head to break with the greatest voice note ever played in the history of the JK Drive Time show. Take it away, Sal!
Oh, I'm sick of being on all fours with no one to talk to. Oh, hello, Paddington. I'm a llama today. Can I spit on you? Oh, not marmalade sandwiches. You want chicken nuggets instead? Oh, dear. Well, I don't know what to do. Well, you could always go to Finland and meet Mr. What's his name? Lockett? I don't know. But he's going to be in charge of the borders, so everybody can come in. Oh, this is a wonderful country to live in.
Across the UK. On DAB+. On YouTube. On your mobile. And on your side. This is Talk.
About 22 minutes to 6 o'clock, we're live across the UK. What a day it is. I don't know. I can't get over that voice note. Never ever get rid of it. 0344 499 1000. Hello to Lloyd Keatley. Jez, what Trump and Elon have revealed are the measures that are truly required to save Western civilization. They've also revealed how timid and corrupt the current UK government are when it comes to doing the right thing for its people. The first leader in the UK to adopt their agenda and ditch this woke rubbish will win, a landslide at the next election. Is that Nigel Farage? Is it somebody else? Hello, Jez. This is Mike in Norfolk. I was born in 1942, my brother in 45 and my sister in 49. Our mum, God bless her, didn't return to work until 54 when my sister first attended school. Nowadays, kids do not get this level of attention. My dad worked hard to keep us fed and clothed, and we had family structure completely. Anne's in London. Are the Gazans who have been granted asylum here, Jez, under Ukrainian rules, all women and children, or cowardly men who've run away, unlike Ukrainian men who were fighting to protect their families? Andy's in Ashton-under-Lyne. What a lovely place that is. These kids that identify as cats, Jez, do their parents provide cat litter for them at home and scratch trees? I agree. I think they should let them sleep under cars. Ian's from Sweden. I'm joking, he's from Swindon. This country is the pits. What on earth is going on? Surely we must be able to do something to stop this lunacy. The king of this country must step in. He's the ruler. He needs to intervene. I feel I just don't want to pay any of my taxes until this crap stops. If kids are turning up to school wanting to be a cat, the teacher should say, we can't help you, and give the parents take them to the nearest category. The problem is, Ian, and I'm going to say something very contentious as a supremely vocal royalist. Is our king becoming too political? What the hell was he doing in Cornwall with the dodgy pair of Starmer and Rayner in her... Do you know those shoes? Did you see the shoes she was wearing? They're called brothel creepers. This is not made up. Men would wear them to creep round brothels. Ryan's going, God, he's discovered the shoes I buy. Sonia's in Devon. Hello, Sonia. Jez and Mike. Well, he's gone. First off, if the new health minister is OK with llama identification, will this make Starmer the zookeeper? No, it'll make him Starmer the llama liker. I don't know. Secondly, when is Mike going to get his island of independence? If it's soon, can we emigrate to it, please? Loving the show. We're all going to go and live on it. Mike... Please don't wind up, Jez. We've got 2 more hours of the old git. Nice. Richard, why can't MPs identify as people who have common sense and care about the country? Very good point. I'd say that Reform are trying. Charlie, I don't agree with putting wannabe llamas in Colchester Zoo. I live 5 minutes down the road and I don't want these muppets anywhere near my house. Ah, you sound like a right NIMBY. To the phone lines, Gloucestershire. Sally, good afternoon. You're on Talk Drive. How are you?
Hello, Jeremy. I'm fuming, actually, because you don't...
Can we... Sorry, I have this... It's not your fault, darling. Can you move your mouth back from the phone? I can't understand a word, sweet. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, is that better?
A little bit, yes. Go on. What do you want to say?
What it is, Jeremy, I'm bloody fuming, because I'm a dog walker, and they think they can allow immigrants to come in, apply for asylum, becoming a dog walker. Do they not realise how complex it is?
Well, it isn't. You don't know it isn't. What are you talking about, woman? You can just arrive at Dover and some border immigration official, who, by the way, isn't there. He's in Finland working from home. He's going to say to you on Zoom, hello, Sally, you're going to hello. You want to stay here, do you? Yeah. And what do you do for a living? I'm a dog walker. Fine, get in. And that's it. What you talking about? You haven't got any qualification. You don't have to be qualified as a dog walker, do you?
But it's not that, Jeremy. It's understanding. Both Dave and I, both from farming backgrounds.
Who's Dave?
You've got to absolutely bloody understand.
Who's Dave?
About animals.
Sally, wind up. Hold on a minute. Who's Dave? Where's Dave gone?
My husband.
I didn't know that. You just added Dave into the conversation. Dave could have been the dog.
I'm on his phone. But, and...
You're throwing him his bone, did you just say? I don't want to know about your husband's bone ahead of Valentine's Day, madam. Crack on.
But Jeremy, also, if they can come in as yoga instructors, don't they realise they've got to have some kind of qualification for that?
And you've got to be able to bend like a pretzel and wear a leotard. I agree with you. Honestly, mate, it's making it too easy. What do you make of being able to identify as a llama?
Well, I tell you what, don't go there.
I love you, Sal. Very good to have you on. Have you had... Sally, how long have you been listening to Talk?
Dave David and I listened to it for a long, long time.
Who's David?
That's why we're on your hot button.
Oh, bless her. Have another drink. Thanks, Sal, for coming on. She's lovely. 5:45. She's gone already. Bristol, Steve, hello. You're on Talk. How are you?
Hi, Jeremy. How are you?
I was going to say, how's Bristol? And that probably offends somebody because you can't say Bristol anymore, can you? How are you, Stevie boy? What you got for me?
I think that earlier on today, just before 5 o'clock, that you and Mike may have solved...
Hello? Why
Hello?
Why is there always a satellite delay? You got Mike and I, and then it went completely silent. Are you all right? Is it our phone system? No, you're there.
Right, just before 5 o'clock...
He's only in Bristol. He sounds like he's in outer Monday. Slow down a minute. You're in Bristol, aren't you? Call in Bristol. Are you there, Steve?
Yes, that's me.
Right,
Yeah.
here are the results of the Bristol jury. Crack on, Stevie. Let's have it.
Right, just before 5 o'clock, you and Mike may have solved the climate crisis.
How?
Magic carpets.
Magic what?
Magic carpets.
Oh, I'm glad you didn't say mushrooms. What did we say about magic carpets then?
You were talking about magic carpets.
Was I?
No fuel, no emissions. Miliband's going to love them.
This is very true. Ed Miliband could like a magic carpet. Can I ask you a question? Dear sweet Steve in Bristol. Whereabouts in Bristol, Bob? My first daughter was born in Southmead.
I'm in Kingswood.
He doesn't even know where he lives in Bristol. There's a slight satellite delay going on.
I'm in Kingswood.
Are you? What do you make genuinely of this country right now? How do you? I mean, when you hear all this stuff going on, what does it make you think?
I'm an old guy, and I served in the army from 75 to 88. And my overreaching thought is, why do we bother?
It is that, and that to me, actually, on a serious note for a sec, we've had a laugh, it is a really, really, and this is the sad part of what I keep talking about on this show every day, because when I hear people constantly criticising the United Kingdom or saying, you know, we should be softer to migrants or we should allow kids to go to school on all fours and all that rubbish, all I ever hear from these people is also a criticism of the United Kingdom for its past, notwithstanding the huge sacrifices and efforts made by so many people like you, men and women who went to war, men and women who worked their fingers to the bone. And so many of that particular age group, and I'm nearly at that age group, will just look back and go, you've no idea what sacrifices a lot of people made to give you the country that slowly but surely you're ruining.
Yeah, I'm terrified for my grandkids.
Are you really?
Yeah.
Mate, it's really good to have you on. I really appreciate it, Stephen King. And best wishes to the family and the grandkids. You're very kind. 0344 499 1000. I've just seen out of the corner of my eye that the legend that is Kinsey Schofield has arrived in the United Kingdom. She's flown post-haste from the United States of America. She'll be on the show in the next hour. We've got sport with Sam, who's got trousers that are too short today, and we've also got the legend that is Brendan O'Neill, chief political writer for Spiked. Actually, thinking about it, Brendan's on at after 6 o'clock. If you want to get me to ask him something, text me now your question, 87222. Start your message with the word talk. This is Talk Drive.
a bit of a Westminster snob. She'll look at someone like Nigel Farage and her favourite dismissal is, not serious, not serious. Well, look, politicians who go around thinking that other politicians are not serious are the ones who get beaten by those other politicians, because those other politicians are more interested in connecting with the people. And Nigel Farage talks the language of the people of this country. I'm afraid she doesn't, and she doesn't get it. She's in deep trouble, and so are the Tories. They need to get rid of her, I think.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Well, this is a change. Push the button at 10 to 6, please.
Sport Summary on Talk.
As ever, I give a chance to my illegitimate son. We say a very good evening to Sam Ellard.
A very, very good evening. I'm excited for this. I'm ready.
Because you're not.
Where do I look, by the way?
At me.
Do I just look at you?
Why
I'm in
not?
a different chair today.
Yes, because right next to you...
Oh, no.
...is the legend. Can we do a triple screen thing? Split, thank you. Jodie, who is the Associate Assistant, generally brilliant Assistant Producer. Don't clap yourself, you ego.
Yeah, that's weird.
Because I put in so much effort every day.
Sorry?
I put in so much effort every day.
Didn't understand that Scouse thing. You are? What'd you say?
I put in all the effort every day for
The
it.
reason we've got them together, and Ryan went, this is my idea, don't you think? Can you put me in the middle, please? Can we do that so it looks like...
Why do you have to be in the middle?
What do you mean they don't look like they're looking? I don't give a toss if they're looking at each
Why
other.
do you have to be in the middle?
Right, ladies and gentlemen, here we go. Today, we've got you both together because Sam Ellard, the humiliation of being knocked out of the FA Cup by Plymouth Argyle, tonight it is the final ever Goodison derby. Liverpool play Everton. You're a Liverpool fan, and our Jodie is a true blue, right?
Scouts are through and through, right?
Don't talk over her. Stop bullying her. She'll get anxiety and have a month off.
You got to let me have my moments.
That's what she... Don't hold her hand. Oh, this is all going wrong. Your boyfriend at home, Cameron, who hates me, he's also a Liverpool fan, so tonight is not going to be good in your house.
No.
What's good? A score draw? A no-score draw?
Well, I obviously want Everton to win because it's our last game at Goodison Park. And I grew up...
Goodison Park.
I grew up going...
Did you?
I had a seat in the Gladys Street stand.
So I didn't understand a word you said there. What did you say?
I had a seat in the Gladys Street stand.
Gladys Street?
Yes.
And who was the manager?
David Moyes at the time.
And of course, Moyes back now. Had a great start. Forget the FA Cup. He's won 3 league games on the bounce. Sam, Liverpool will be stung after the other day against Plymouth. Arne Slot said, I was disappointed. Personally, I think he was responsible. I think he should have a couple of the big guns on the bench. We talked about that. How do you see tonight's final Goodison derby going?
I think it's going to be a horrible game for Liverpool because Everton are going to be so up for this for obvious reasons. Final Merseyside derby at Goodison Park, they'll be desperate to put a dent in our...
cold again. Are you all right?
I'm a bit bunged up. Don't accuse me of being soft because I'm here and I wasn't going to mention it.
Do you need your chest rubbed?
Yeah, that'd be quite nice actually.
Jodie, after the
Can
show.
I leave?
Hey!
It's going to be intense, it's going to be loud, it's going to be aggressive. They're going to make it seriously difficult for Liverpool tonight.
And they're playing well under Moyes, to be fair.
And you're absolutely spot on, Jeremy. They're playing really, really well. No surprise, David Moyes is a really good coach. Despite all of that, I just have a feeling that our class, our quality might come through and we could maybe snatch a scruffy late 1-0 win from a set piece maybe, but I think it's going to be seriously hard.
Joe, are you going to be watching it with Cameron?
Yeah, I'm going to watch it, so tonight's going to be quite tense in the house. Cameron wants Liverpool to win.
And what Cameron wants, Cameron gets, baby. Why did I say that?
No, but the thing is, his men's moods
He could
are
be
so
my
affected.
son, because my son says things like, you're just so weird, you're just like
Just
really...
the way you said, who says baby yet and looks into a camera when saying that? It's really, really weird. I do 5 minutes Jeremy every single day, which I love doing, by the way. How do you put up working with this man 5 days a week, every single week?
Answer him truthfully.
Well, technically it's not 5 days a week.
Oh, just 4, yeah, you can't do 5, can you?
He works from home the other 2 days.
To be fair. Oh, yeah, 3 days, isn't it? When you get to his age, though, it's hard to do. It's hard to do
question there, though.
No,
Let her speak.
You got to repeat the question.
Go on, you go.
No, you repeat the question because she's forgotten. She's got the onset of young dementia.
What does Goodison Park mean to Everton?
No,
and your
what's it like
supporters?
working with Jeremy for 3 days a week?
What are your favourite memories of Goodison Park?
Well, I grew up watching Mikel Arteta, David Moyes, Fellaini, Jack Rodwell.
Oh, I know Jack Rodwell.
Yeah.
What happened to him?
So I obviously want Everton to win now that Moyes is back, but the thing is, my mood is not as affected as Cameron's. So I know
Why don't you
that.
get Cameron on instead of me if you're going to keep name dropping Cameron? I mean, you know.
She's basically saying her boyfriend be as grumpy as hell if they lose.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
It will, and he will be grumpy.
Where's he
but
taking
then
you on Valentine's Day?
Hawksmoor
What's that?
for steak.
How'd you have your steak done?
Oh, for God's sake, we're talking about football. Can we concentrate on sport, please? Prediction tonight, Liverpool-Everton. Stop talking about Cameron's meat.
Scruffy 1-0 Liverpool win.
1-0 win. What do you reckon?
2-1 Everton.
2-1 Everton. Now, big
And
sport.
I think it'll be a header by Van Dijk.
An own goal?
Yeah. No, I think Van Dijk will score the winning header.
Oh, really?
But Van Dijk. Oh, you think Liverpool will win?
No, I think Everton will win, but Van Dijk will score a header for Liverpool.
Can you tell me your favourite Goodison Park memory? What's the first thing
We've
that comes
asked
to
that
mind?
question.
No, she didn't answer. She just said Fellaini.
He had hair like a toilet brush, didn't he?
My favourite Everton memory is going to the games with my dad.
Oh, I
and
love that.
Getting a steak and kidney pie.
Oh, she's into steak.
That's
I
what
couldn't
football's all
do
about,
that because
right?
my dad's dead. In a shocking, and I'm being completely serious, devastating blow for Arsenal, and I'm going to put my neck on the line. Piers Morgan will hate me. Arsenal will not win anything. They will not win the Premier League. They did not.
Put neck on the line, yeah?
They did not
That's kinda
buy
stating the
a
obvious.
centre forward. Kai Havertz today ruled out for the rest of the season. Sam with a torn hamstring. Devastation. They've got nobody. Jesus, who's fragile.
Saka's injured.
Saka's injured.
Martinelli's injured.
Big problems.
They've got... Don't go anywhere, Jody.
No, stay, Jody.
Yeah, stay for the last few minutes.
Yeah.
They've got 4 attacking players injured. They didn't sign anyone in January, which was ludicrous. And then they go away to Dubai for kind of a winter break to kind of recharge. And then Havertz's hamstring goes.
In Dubai?
Yeah.
That didn't work then, did it?
And he's going to be out for 3 months. He's going to miss the rest of the season. There must be some tear to the hamstring. You're right. I mean, any chance they've got of trying to push down Liverpool or go deep in the Champions League, they've got 3 fit attacking players who are going to have to play pretty much. And by the way, one of those is Sterling, who doesn't look quite on it. One of those is the kid in Wanieri, and the other one is Trossard, who's inconsistent. Bad luck with injuries, but I would say
Bad planning, man.
Exactly that. They should have signed in January, Jeremy. They should have signed, in fact, I'll go back further, JK. They should have signed someone in the summer. They should have signed the number 9 before these injuries, and then you don't add in January.
The Ollie Watkins thing was too late, was too quick.
They've left Mikel Arteta short. And it's going to cost them, Jez.
Couldn't agree with you more. England hammered by India, the final one-day international today, ahead of the Champions League trophy. I mean, the Champions League. England, what is wrong with them, man?
7 defeats and 8 on this tour. Bazball's come into white ball cricket. And you know what? It's not just defeats. They're getting hammered. I was covering the game today for TalkSport. India winning by 142 runs. 3-5-6. They're
posted. Not bowling well. They're not batting well. They're not catching well.
The batting is just... too many good players, Jeremy, I think, are badly out of form. I think the team doesn't look too balanced. They always look like they're a bowler or a batsman like. I think they're missing an all-rounder. Since Mo and Ali's retired, it just feels like they're always a little bit unbalanced. Too many good players are out of form. And sure, you're up against an India team who are seriously in form. Best team in the world. It's all a little bit messy at the moment. The tempo, it almost feels like I think the biggest problem is with the bat is they lose every time they lose a wicket, Jez. You know what's coming. They lose 1, and then 2 and 3 seem to follow really.
That's
quickly.
pressure. That is absolute pressure. Having played sport at the highest level myself, that is absolutely.
Well, having presented at the highest level as well, right? I mean, you know, you've been around. You've done some of the biggest and best shows on TV and radio, right?
Some of the biggest. The others debatable. But listen, also very quickly, last night Man City crumbled again against Real Madrid. What is wrong with... How has Pep Guardiola, on a serious note, we've got 1 minute gone from being this magician? It's almost like somebody went after a few games, you're going to be crap from now on, and the whole thing's gone wrong for Man City.
They just look jaded. The players look leggy. Almost just looks like they need to get to the summer, go away for 6 weeks, and almost try and start again. I mean, that game last night was. I mean, they found themselves 2-1 up, Man City, having not played well, and yet they always just seem so open, too easy for teams. Like it's like they've lost all their experience just to sort of see out games, put your foot like. Man City didn't play well. You go 2-1 up. Use your experience. You've got experienced players in that team. See out the game, sit in, and it's just too easy for Madrid to cut through. And the fact that Madrid ended up winning that game, Man City had to go to the Bernabeu with a lead. They're nowhere near good enough, this Man City team playing like this, to go away from home.
Do you think he, very quickly, 10 seconds, do you think he knew when he signed a new contract that this was round the corner, Pep?
No.
Didn't.
I don't think anybody predicted this.
Okay. So my prediction tonight for the final Liverpool-Everton game at Goodison Derby is very simply this. Everton 2, Liverpool 2.
Oh, so you've
all draw.
gone draw. Jodie's gone win. Everton win. I've got Liverpool win.
It's always a pleasure, never a chore, Jodie. Thank you very much indeed. And Sam, you did okay. 0344 499 1000. Text to 87222. I am going to the news at 6 and for a wee. I'll see you in 3.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Back, third and final hour of drive for Wednesday, and it's something very strange has happened. I'm in my own world, and I look up through the glass, and Ryan's still there, and Jodie's still there, and Amy's she's identifying now as a bloke called Sam. What's happened to Amy? She's changed into a man, a Charlton supporter. I haven't worked with Sammy for ages. Good to have you back. I never liked that Amy woman anyway. 0344 499 1000. Text to 87222. The world's gone flipping mad, led by Britain. Margaret. JK, what a great voice note from Sally. I listen to the legend that is MG every morning. Please let Mike borrow the voice note. Hello to Mark in Gloucester. That excuse for a Labour minister thinks she's a llama. We should all go to Parliament. Alpaca launch. Quite right. Simon's in Scotland, not sure where. I feel like I'm in a perpetual Monty Python skit, just waiting on Labour commissioning the Ministry for Silly Walks. For anybody who missed it, this week, just to give you an idea of what we've dealt with on this show, on Monday, the new Labour Health Minister said it's OK to identify as a llama. On Tuesday, the Home Office let us realise that you can stay in this country, and if you're a convicted criminal, if you tell a court that your son doesn't like chicken nuggets in Albania. And today, an elected Labour politician, and I swear this on my life because she doubled down, Stella Creasy, said, and I quote, that we should treat migrants as well as we treated Paddington Bear, which led to a voice note that will go down in history. This, my friends, is the greatest ever. Take it away, Sally.
Oh, I'm sick of being on all fours with no one to talk to. Oh, hello, Paddington. I'm a llama today. Can I spit on you? Oh, not marmalade sandwiches. You want chicken nuggets instead? Oh, dear. Well, I don't know what to do. Well, you could always go to Finland and meet Mr. What's his name? Lockett? Jockett? Lockett? I don't know. But he's going to be in charge of the borders, so everybody can come in. Oh, this is a wonderful country to live in.
I love the woman. 6:05, we say a very good evening to Brendan O'Neill, chief political writer at Spike. Brendan, she's spot on, isn't she, mate? The world's gone nuts in this side of the world, anyway.
Hey, Jeremy, she is absolutely spot on. Britain has gone berserk. I mean, every story is worse than the last one. You feel like we're being ruled by complete lunatics. People who think you can identify as an animal, people who think you should be kept in the country for your own safety if your kid doesn't like chicken nuggets, people who think we should welcome immigrants like you would welcome Paddington Bear. I mean, these people live in a fairy tale. They live in a fairyland.
There are elected politicians. They are elected representatives. That's what scares me, Brendan, a lot, being honest.
Oh, it's terrifying. It's absolutely terrifying. The insanity of these people. And I think, you know, when you're swept up in it, as we currently are, because we read story after story about these lunatic people, you can kind of just laugh it off or forget about how crazy it is or just move on with your life because you don't want to be bothered with these crazy politicians. But I think at some point we're going to look back and say, can you remember the time Britain was ruled by people who thought human beings could identify as llamas? And we really are going to look back at this era as one of the craziest in the whole history of this country. So getting a handle on it now, before it spins even more out of control, is probably a good idea.
It's interesting because I said something to somebody earlier. We'll talk to you about Trump in a tech. We'll talk about Gaza. But I feel like we are, and I said this the other day and got knocked down. Today it's got a bit of traction. I feel like we are America 4 years ago. I feel like the mad Democrats / Socialist Labour Party are about to unleash their madness, and that we are 4 years behind a Donald Trump type character coming in and saying, I don't care what the press throw at me, I don't care what my detractors throw at me, this is what I asked you if you wanted and I'm going to damn well do it. And whether that involves the blob, whether it involves, I mean, what was that today? Let's show empathy to kids going to school on all fours and want to be a cat. No, I'll put him in a cat tray outside with a tin of whiskers because, trust me, they'd be in bloody doors within 24 hours going, I'm really sorry, Dad, that was a joke. I'm being serious. I think we're at the beginning of this mad, woke cycle, but I do believe, and I have to believe at 60 nearly, that it will turn, Brendan, because... And we said it earlier, this is a genuinely heartfelt comment. My old man, God rest his soul, would be turning in his grave. He would just be laughing. He'd be going, what the hell is wrong? I fought in a world, this is ridiculous.
Yeah, part of me hopes we're in the death throes of wokeness. And that's why it's so crazy. And the death throes could last a long time.
Yeah.
I don't think it's going to be over tomorrow. It could last another few years. But I think we might be in the final stages. And I think that for two reasons. Firstly, because wokeness is now almost dead in the United States, certainly in Washington, D.C. and in the White House and in the Trump administration's plans for the country. Wokeness is dead. It's over and done with. Of course, it's still alive on campuses and so on, but Trump is killing it off. We are going to have to catch up at some point. But at the moment, I think we're going through the crazy final stages. And you can tell it's the final stages because now when a politician says you can identify as a llama, or when the Children's Society said you should show empathy to kids who think they're cats or kids who think they're dogs, you hear more and more people laughing at it. Your callers laughing at it. People you meet on the street will just say, what a joke this is. So it's not taken seriously anymore by normal people. And I think the best cure for crazy politicians is the laughter of the public, and that's what we're going to get.
It's really interesting when you talk about, we talked about it last week, didn't we, what I call the mainstream moderates. Why has it taken, do you think? You're a political writer, you have your finger on the pulse. Why has it taken so long for common sense? And I do agree with you. I don't think we're at the end of it. I think there is a much better general awareness than there has been ever. I think people are not scared. I mean, I could tell you 10 years ago you couldn't talk about immigration, you'd be labelled a racist. I think people now are prepared to say, hold on a second, we've done our bit. It ain't right, we're struggling, hold on a second. And you know, the lefties will jump up and down, but actually feel that there's something right in being able to speak the truth. Why has it taken so long, Brendan?
That's a really good question. You know, people often talk about the madness of crowds, but what worries me is the madness of the elites. You know, when I hear a crazy idea these days, I just know it's come from some top university or from some well-paid member of the think tank classes. The craziest ideas actually come from the elites. And in the general public, there is a groundswell of common sense. There's a groundswell of skepticism towards this wokeness. I think that's been kind of quiet for some time. People have been silent. They haven't felt that they haven't had the confidence to rock the boat. They've worried about being cancelled if they say the wrong thing in their workplace or if they say the wrong thing on the internet. So there are lots of reasons why the silent majority stayed silent. But that's what's changing now. What's changing now, and this is partly down to Trump's victory, is that people are speaking out more plainly and more clearly and more loudly against this nonsense. So politicians just aren't going to get away with it like they used to.
Do you think that we will ever have... Interesting, actually. I respect your opinion. I meant to ask you this last week. Do you think we will have, or do have, or could have, in terms of the system we have in our country, a politician that could come in and do what most of us with a brain cell know is needed? And whether that's the blob, the media, the legal system, the judicial system, whatever, is there within the confines of the role of Prime Minister scope for somebody to make that much of a change that's needed in your mind?
You know, that's really the question facing Britain in the 21st century, because in America they have the president has an extraordinary amount of power. You know, he can just issue an executive order and boom, men can no longer play in women's sports. Just like that, with a flick of his pen, that craziness is brought to an end. In Britain, it's more difficult because we have so many checks and balances, which can sometimes be useful. Yep. But we also have the blob. We also have the media class who push back against everything they don't like. We have these very influential movers and shakers in Whitehall who try to block sensible policy. So it's much harder in Britain, but it's not impossible. And I've often thought that if a politician cut through in the UK who promised two things, to leave more of our money in our pockets and to stop meddling with our brains in terms of wokeness, any politician who promised to do those two things would clean up at the polls.
And that's my point. And that's my point. I say it every week until they fire me, right? I want a politician to stand in front of me and go, right, I haven't put this to you before. So, and this isn't me, more. Divorced twice, once smoked that, done a couple of wrong things, but I worked hard, these are my kids, I've got another kid, whatever. This is what I believe in, right? This is what I believe in. I'm asking you to elect me on what I believe in. If you don't like it, right, or you don't understand it, that's fine, I'll walk. But if you do, I will come on a journey and you will come with me. And there will be days when it's good and days when it will be bad, but I'll bring you with me. And I will always be honest. And if I mess up, I'll be honest. And if I succeed, I'll be honest. And it won't be easy and it will probably be painful, but we believe in this and we're going to do it together. Why don't politicians do that? Why is there not that sort of unfiltered honesty that Trump has brought, I think, to the world's sort of awareness, which is, knock me down, tell me I wear fake tan, I might have had sex with some actress or not, I've made $1 billion, I might not have paid all my tax, I might have shouted at a few people, and I eat McDonald's and I say inappropriate things. But I tell you what, as many people have said to me in the last 3 weeks, when he says to the American people, here's what's going to happen, I'm going to make you better off, I'm going to make you safer, I'm going to make you more proud of your country, and I'm going to make the world understand that we are the biggest and best country in the world. Who the hell wouldn't want that, Brendan? Who wouldn't want that?
I think that's what a lot of Brits are crying out for right now. They want an unspun politician, a politician who doesn't just repeat all the lines that he or she has been fed by their spin doctors or by some focus group that they've attended or some report that they've read. People want a politician who just says, this is what I'm going
warts and all. I don't mind the warts. That's what I want a politician to go. It's not, I haven't run this speech past a focus group. I might mess up. That's me. I'm a human bloody being. I'd rather pretend I'd rather you didn't pretend that you're perfect and get caught with your trousers down. I'd rather you said to me, listen, Watson, this is who I am. I'll do my best for you. I won't always get it right.
Absolutely. We don't want to be ruled by a head boy or a head girl who gets everything correct all the time but is boring as hell and has no visionary policies. We want to be ruled by a politician who means what they say and says what they mean. But, you know, the last time we had a prime minister who was even close to that was Boris Johnson. He, you know, I have a lot of criticisms of Boris Johnson, but he did pretty much shoot from the hip.
Yep.
He wasn't quite rumpled. He wasn't particularly spun. Every now and then he'd say crazy things and he'd get things wrong, but people forgave him for it because they thought he was entertaining and because he said he would get Brexit done when the rest of the political class was trying to bury it in the earth. That's what we want. We want a politician who's honest, who will do what the public wants them to do, who will admit when they get things wrong, and will speak like a normal human being. You know who's the opposite of all of that? Keir Starmer.
Absolutely. Just to bring in Trump again quickly, because this was breaking news about an hour ago. Love your response to this. He says that he spoke to Putin in the last few hours. He made this announcement and agreed negotiations to end the war in Ukraine. Negotiations would start immediately. That was followed about half an hour later by Moscow confirming that Putin has invited Trump to America, to Moscow, to continue those discussions. Now, we all know that the Donald will want everybody to think he can do this deal. There will be many problems in this. He'll be thinking, I can tell Putin what to do. Putin will be thinking, I can play Trump like a good one. Ukraine will be worried. But again, whatever detail follows, this is a man in a hurry who seems to be, whether he's ruffling feathers or not, getting stuff done, right?
That's right. Absolutely right. And you're right. You've got to be careful with Vladimir Putin. He's a smooth operator. He's a sly operator. He will want to get one over on Trump if he can, and he'll want to get one over on Ukraine. So it's a very difficult game that Trump has to play. And I think Trump and his advisors probably know that. But Trump is serious about stopping wars. He's serious about restoring peace to certain parts of the world. And he's serious about getting things done. You know, this is the man who wrote a book called The Art of the Deal. He sees himself as a deal maker. He sees himself as someone who can seal the deal and get things sorted. You know, one of the things that was always said about Trump is that he was a danger to the world. He was this crazy orange bad politician who would destroy the world and drag us all into the Third World War. In fact, it was under Biden that we saw more wars than we've seen for a long time. And it seems that under Trump, we might just get peace in some parts of the world. So the idea that Biden was the adults in the room and Trump is the lunatic, that just doesn't wash anymore.
The other news today, which I'd love your take on, we've talked about the madness, was this Palestinian migrant who was allowed to stay in the United Kingdom. I mean, so far this week we've had nuggets and the Caribbean's too hot, but this was a migrant who grabbed a left-wing trendy lawyer that we all paid for and went to a dodgy judge and basically has used a scheme meant for Ukrainian refugees to stay in the UK. I just wanted to ask you something, because I'm not saying it's split, because there will be a sort of certain... I had two sorts of sets of responses. The first, not as many, obviously, as the second. But the first was, hold on a second, Jez, you've got to acknowledge, we said when Ukraine was at war, we would take people, open our homes, these people will love, you know, mass destruction. Isn't this the same? The other lot, many of them were saying, well, hold on a second. Gaza is infested with Hamas-related terrorism. How the hell do you know what's coming into this country? Where do you sit on that, Brendan?
I think that's a valid point. And, you know, no one in Ukraine attacked an ally of ours like Hamas did with Israel.
Yeah.
On the 7th of October 2023, Hamas carried out the worst mass murder of Jews since the Holocaust. Now, I'm not saying everyone in Gaza is a member of Hamas, but we have to bear that in mind when we're talking about refugees from that part of the world. But the bigger question for me is, who runs this country? Who runs Britain? Is it the people we elect into Parliament to make laws and to make decisions about who can come here and who can't, even though they don't do a very good job of that most of the time? Or is it a judge none of us has ever heard of, none of us ever voted for, and none of us could pick out in a lineup? Who runs this country? And this judicial activism is as threatening to democracy as the blob.
Judicial activism. Is it possible to deal with that by, for example, it's the old hot potato, leaving the ECHR and giving these people less of a statute book upon which they can hang these ridiculous cases and allow people to come back or stay in this country who patently shouldn't be here. And it's not racist. You stole hundreds of thousands of pounds. You should have been deported, and you've used bloody nuggets as an excuse, and you're still here, man. It's ridiculous.
You know, it's so clear now that the ECHR and also the Refugee Convention and all these other ideas that probably had good intentions when they were first invented, they are an albatross around the neck of democratic countries because they prevent us from making judgments that we consider to be in the best interest of Britain. And it's perfectly within our right as voters and as the people we elect to say, we don't want that person here. We want these criminals out. These are not racist judgments. These are perfectly reasonable, legitimate decisions that a country should be free to make. But as long as we are in the ECHR and as long as we have these international treaties hanging over us, that emboldens these activist judges to make judgments that go against
But my point is, and you make a really salient point, this is 70 plus years of age, this bill, and there are and were many reasons why that at that moment was both edifying and correct. But that's the same as saying we've got problems with the NHS because the population's older and bigger, and of course the world has changed, and I don't believe that it holds the same credence in any way nowadays. And certainly what's happening is it's being manipulated by people with an agenda to ensure that what they want happens, which tells me there's loopholes. They should leave the ECHR. I had somebody tell me earlier that Kemi Badenoch, Bob Seeley said, will leave the ECHR. I don't believe that for a moment. I don't think she will. I think that Reform want to leave the ECHR. But there seems to be this still obsession with, well, we want to appear as a caring, sharing nation. And the only two people, which is rubbish, by the way, who aren't in the ECHR is Russia and Belarus. What would that say? I want a politician who goes, I don't give a toss whether you label me with Russia and Belarus. I care about Beryl in Bury. You can't see a doctor, so you can shove it where the sun don't shine. We're leaving. End of. Done. That's it.
Absolutely. And, you know, a few years back, that would have been considered a perfectly reasonable position. Yeah. The idea that a sovereign nation should make decisions about who comes into the country and who does not.
Oh, imagine.
I can't believe it's become so controversial to say we don't want that person here, we don't want that group of people here, or we think criminals should be kicked out. How did that become controversial? You know, my parents are immigrants. They came to this country in 1970. They came here to work. That was the only reason they came here. And if they didn't find work, thankfully they did, they would have gone back to where they came from. So this idea that you have to accept all migrants, all asylum seekers, regardless of whether they work, regardless of whether they obey the law or not, that is poppycock. And I can't believe that's become a mainstream view in Whitehall. It's crazy.
Really great having you on. I look forward to Wednesdays because of you, my man. Really good to have you. Thank you so much indeed. The legend that is Brendan O'Neill, chief political writer of Spiked. What is he? Just gone 20 past 6. I'm going to try and get this right. Labour has pushed the self-destruct button for us Britons. Thank you very much indeed. Philip says, latest news, Rachel Reeves is identifying as an economist. Whatever next, says Philip in Ferrum. And I'm going to try and get this right, OK, Ryan? Andy. Hey, Jeremy. Do the MPs now sit in the Houses of Parliament? Great show. Do you see what I've done there? Parliament. Never mind, talk drive.
Because at the end of the day, apparently it says that now 15% of the total number of people behind bars are people who have been sent back in after they've been released. So there's clearly a problem, and you've always said this, Vanessa, with what happens when they're in there as well, because what they're not being encouraged to do is figure out how to stay away.
I can't say this enough. The bigger picture is how our prison system has been run into and our justice system, for that matter, has been run into the ground.
Yeah, right.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
6:25, it's Wednesday, we're live across the UK. Kevin O'Sullivan is here with his political asylum from 7 o'clock, a man with a huge audience and a huge ego and a wonderful, wonderful sense of how to be as brilliant as he is. He's on from 7, followed by Petri Hoskins. This show tomorrow is in the very capable hands of our next guest, Peter Cardwell. How are you? Why are you shaking your head?
Because it's Alex Phillips tomorrow.
I thought you were identifying as Alex Phillips.
I'm not.
tomorrow.
I don't know. Alex Phillips is identifying as Alex Phillips.
If you were an animal,
yes.
What would you identify as? An old
Not
dog?
a llama.
No?
Not a llama. Probably a clapped-out donkey or something. I don't know.
Really?
Yeah, an ass. Yeah.
Why would you be a donkey?
I don't know. I wouldn't.
You're certainly not hung like a donkey, are you? I mean, I just thought I'd drop that in.
It's 26 minutes past 6. People.
Ian's on voice now.
Children
go.
are listening.
Serious question. I'm out walking my dog, and I was wondering if someone identifies as a dog, are they allowed in a shop? On the other side, if my dog identifies as a human, can he go in a shop?
I mean, honestly, see what's happened? The world's gone mad.
The world has gone mad, and this health minister who says that people can identify with llamas, and I don't know if you saw the story today from the Children's Society, which is usually quite a sensible organisation.
On all fours.
Yes, talking about children identify as furry should have
You
empathy.
haven't got kids, but I'm telling you categorically, if a kid did that to me, they'd be in the garden with a litter tray for a week and they wouldn't be allowed. You laughing, I'm telling you, it's child abuse. Did you hear the greatest voice note ever on this show?
I did, it was very good.
I mean, how
good
good is it? And that's how ludicrous it's become, right?
Well, it is, and also the fact is that there are facts. There are things that are true. You know, you're an adult human male, I'm an adult human male, they're adult human females. Meal.
I thought he said you're an adult human meal. He's going to eat me.
I'm not going to do that. So yeah, I mean, it's a very there are facts, there are things that are straightforward, there are things that we know to be true, but we're keeping told aren't true. I mean, it's gaslighting. It's psychological warfare.
Let's go to Wigan. You call her Damon. Welcome to Talk Drive, my friend. Peter Cardwell's with me. What you got?
Yeah, I've got a question for yourself and Peter. By the way, my wife thinks that you are the absolute smoothest gentleman on the TV, Jeremy.
Sorry, can we just rewind for a minute? Could you just say that again? Because in the past, I used to have this, and when I sit in this place and people look at me like I'm the old man. What did you just say? Your wife, what?
Yes, my wife wants you to know that you are the most suave and sophisticated gentleman on the TV.
How you doing, Peter Cardwell? Crack on, Dave.
Yeah, my couple of questions is this. It comes to safeguardings in Great Britain and the way that we have to follow rules and regulations and everything else. If you children identify as animals and go to school on all fours, isn't it the school's responsibility to do a safeguarding? Because how do they know that pupils within that school are not allergic to animals? And also, if you feed the children, whatever they are, whether it's a llama, cat, dog, whatever, if you feed them that food for their dinner, breakfast and tea, in this country, is it physically impossible that you could be charged under child cruelty because you are giving them for dinner what they want to eat?
I mean, a lot of people would tune in and they go, "This is a joke." Damon makes a really, really good point. It's become, thank you, mate, I really appreciate it, and give my love to your wife. It's become, has it not, so ludicrous. It's a bit like Biden. I started by laughing. In the end, I was angry. I'm now getting angry in that I feel like we're becoming a laughing stock.
We are.
And I also, the Children's Society today and schools, and I can joke about putting my kids out so that, but I would do that, is is actually, are the schools, you know, are they central to this? Why doesn't a headmaster say, don't be ridiculous, go home, you're not doing that?
Because they're worried about being sued, they're worried about being struck off, they're worried about, I mean, there used to be, what there used to be was respect for teachers.
Yes.
Head teachers, they were feared.
Yes.
And they were told, and they told people, you're wrong, this is the way things are, we're the adults, you're the children, and this is the way things are. Now, there were problems with that system. That was not a perfect system. We've seen all sorts of things about authority and why we shouldn't trust authority in governments and police and all sorts of organisations, and the trust in society has collapsed. But what the key point is, if you are a teacher and you say, no, you're not a furry, don't be ridiculous, you're a 13-year-old girl or boy, sit down and learn your maths or learn your, you know, science or whatever. Well, actually, there could be consequences for that. Those people could lose their jobs. There could be a controversy. They could be cancelled. And we have a whole group of people, particularly in schools in the public sector, who are trying their best a lot of the time to teach children for the next generation. But you look at some of the polling, for example, in the Times this week about Gen Z. I'm not saying all Gen, I'm not stereotyping all Gen Z.
You get with it, Gen Z, yeah?
Gen Z, yeah.
Gen Z.
It is Gen Z.
It's Gen Z.
It is Gen Z. We live in the United Kingdom. It's not.
It's Gen Z. Why are you arguing with me?
Because you're wrong.
Whose name's on the wall? Oh no, that was another show. Carry on. I'm joking.
Anyway, the point is that if you look at some of the statistics that are out this week, only 10% of Gen Z will actually fight for this country.
I did this just now on Plank, and I admitted that I got this wrong because I was with you. I was sitting here going, you bunch of entitled
No, I'm not saying that for a second.
I think that, I mean, I give you an example about my daughter's university. She told me the other day, and she's politically correct. Unfortunately, she won't be for long. But she said that a lecturer stood up and they were talking about whatever they were talking about, and he said the British Army is both coercive and responsible for many military conflicts, and they're racist, and that's being told to a generation. So well, I'm not excusing.
No. Well,
but does that mean that permeates through forever?
Yes, of course it does.
Yeah.
Why do you think there are so many people who don't feel that Britain is a great country? One, because we're being force-fed this absolute nonsense, but also because our children, for a long time, for generations now, are being force-fed this nonsense. They're being told time and time again that everything about our past is bad. Everything Britain has ever done previously is bad. We are bad. We need to apologise. We need to pay reparations. We need to do this, that, and the other. The army is racist. Blah blah blah. No, it's not. History as a discipline exists. I studied history. History as a discipline exists because people disagree. That's okay. You can have different schools of thought. I get that. But there is one school of thought that is permeating and is allowing people to say things that are not true.
All right, well then let me ask you this then.
As reality.
All right, yeah, but let me ask you this. And I asked Brendan, and he said that was, when he says that's a good question, I feel like I'm doing okay. Why has it taken so long for, hear me out, what I believe to be the emergence of common sense? This, I feel like something's happening genuinely, that people are now fed up, not scared to talk about things that years ago, maybe even 5 years ago, you can't talk about immigration, you racist piece of whatever. Why has it taken so long for somebody or people to go, do you know what, I don't give a damn? I mean, I think this country is crying out for a Trump-esque politician. I said it just now. Why has it taken so long for the silent majority to not be silent anymore?
Because I think the silent majority for a long time were told certain things. They were told, let's have a look at the gay rights movement, for example, or trans rights, or just LGBTQIA ampersand, pound sign, plus,
I don't even know what he's talking about. That's how you book a film.
I'm doing it right. So the point is that for years people were told, right, gay people should have equal rights, they should be allowed to marry. And people go, okay, well, I don't like that. Oh, actually, now, yeah, that's all right, that's fine. That happens, everyone goes, fine, nothing to do with the price of fish, everybody's okay. Don't mind my neighbour's gay, my granddaughter's teacher's gay, whatever. It's fine, they get on with it. Then we're told, right, they're trans people and we need to respect them. Yeah, of course we do, of course we do. Anybody who goes through that is a tough thing, that's a difficult thing. I don't want to make life difficult for anybody else. Then it goes even further and we're told, okay, those people are actually women. And it's at that point of the argument that people say, no, they're not. They're not, factually. They are not. And it comes to a point where kids are saying, I'm a llama. And you go, but you're not. You're not a llama.
And people, let me jump in for a minute.
Here.
And people like J.K. Rowling, people who were brave enough to talk about women's rights, which I always find fascinating with transgender arguments, and I've been also lambasted. I'm with you. right? But it's gone too far. So
but let me tell you
we have a lot of
Rowling.
people who would stick... I'm going to talk about somebody we both know, not with any detail, who goes on and on about women's rights, right? And when a woman says, I feel threatened by a transsexual, a man who's trying to become a woman, change you, and they go, oh, it's completely unfair the way you treat transsexuals. Where's women's rights at that point? We seem to have muddied every single water.
So the point with J.K. Rowling is that if you talk to a specific... I was chatting to a younger person recently, about 30 years old, who told me, you know, J.K. Rowling's awful, she's dreadful, she hates men, she all these kinds of...
men?
Yeah, it was nonsense. It was nonsense. It was a nonsense argument. But the point is that there are a small but very vocal number of people on this particular issue who think she's an awful person, will demonise her and send her horrible messages and all the rest of it. The fact is that I would argue that between 90 and 95% of the country agrees with J.K. Rowling. They're just not making their voice heard. The vast majority of people, probably every single person listening or watching to this programme, thinks this furries thing or kids identifying as llama is nonsense, right? There might be one or two. There might be kids in the car who say, well, actually, no, hold on, we should listen to these people.
Drop them off.
There are facts. There are facts. And the thing is that it's not, you know, this is woke, calling things woke, whatever. And that's fine, and it's fine to have that debate. But the point is that there are things we know to be true, and unless at some point you stand up and actually say, this is factual, this is true, and I'm not going to listen to your absolute nonsense that you're telling me that white is black.
And then, you know, they'll say, but that's your truth, and my truth is different. And what, just to finish, because the thing that annoys me is, and actually, I know you take the mickey out of me, I love the fact the younger generation... God, I sound like my dad. I love the fact that all my kids have an opinion. Yeah. But what I will rail against until they send me to my death, right, and I'm being serious, is the assumption amongst the younger generation that everything that we did or that we were taught that's given them what they've got is so rubbish. Not only should it be cancelled and trashed and treated like it's dreadful, right? And that makes me go, no, hold on a minute. I'm entitled to my opinion. You are and I am. No, your opinion's old-fashioned and past it and irrelevant and sexist and misogynistic. And therein lies the issue. And I genuinely think that the silent majority are being heard more and more.
I think the tide is turning, Jeremy, and I think that there are a lot of people who say we all make mistakes in our youth, you know, and I think, but there are a lot of people who are young and not so young who are saying things that are outrageous and wrong and factually wrong. Yep. And I think the tide is turning, and I think we will get to a point where people go, were we honestly saying that children could identify as llamas?
And go to school on all fours. Peter Carbo, it's been a pleasure. Thank you. We're looking forward to you on Drive Time on Friday. Yes. Tomorrow you're on identifying as Alex Phillips. It's weird.
Alex Phillips is identifying as Alex Phillips.
No, she's not. She doesn't exist. You are putting a dress on and being Alex Phillips. Okay. Can I ask you, do you want to win £25,000?
I do.
Well, you're not allowed to because you work.
I can't enter.
You can, my friends.
It's competition time, and we're giving you a chance to win a whopping £25,000. So what do you need to do to get involved? All you have to do is text the word prize to 83338, or you can enter by post. It's as simple as that. Once again, to get involved, just text the word prize to 83338, or you can enter by post.
18 plus, UK excluding NI. Enter by SMS for £2 plus one standard network charge by 11 p.m. on March the 3rd, 2025. Or send your name, email and contact number to £25,000 cash competition, PO Box 3190, Colchester CO2 8GP, to arrive by 5 p.m. on March the 6th, 2025. This is a News Broadcasting Network promotion. Full terms and conditions at talksport.com.
Across the UK. On DAB+. On YouTube. On your mobile. And on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back, 20 minutes to 7 o'clock. I've waited many days of misery and sadness, cold, dark mornings and wet, dreary evenings, and I've looked at this woman across down the screen, sitting in California, having a lovely time, and now she's flown to be with me, and I'm so excited. Kinsey Schofield, you're here.
JK, I love you.
Look at that jacket.
I am patriotic.
Well, do you know which is really interesting? Because we're now in a country where people aren't patriotic anymore because there's madness in the United Kingdom. But I want to give a bit of balance because I want to ask about Trump. Because on a serious note, and I told you this off air, the inauguration speech was done during one of the shows and we sat and listened to it and I got goosebumps. I got goosebumps listening to somebody saying, and I quote, I'm going to make you better off and safer and prouder. Look after your families. How we would love that. What's it like out there right now? Is he still got many detractors, or there seems to be less? I don't know. Maybe I'm missing the point.
I think that there are less, but they're loud. That what else do they have to do? So there's a lot of complaining, and for the most part, people are seeing change that is making them more comfortable and confident in the future of the country.
And in terms of Kamala, what is happening? Is she going back to California to stand again?
She had very bad tickets to the Lakers game.
Did she?
Yes, very bad tickets.
Is she still with her husband, or she divorced him yet?
Temporarily still together. Seen walking out of a grocery store with plastic bags after trying to ban them.
No way! Shocking.
Yes.
Do you think she'll ever stand again?
No, I don't think so.
She's done.
Yeah, I think so.
She was terrible, wasn't she? And actually what was really interesting was being over here and sitting with Mike, and this lot were going, he'll win, and I was like, I don't think he will. When it was stripped down, I mean, she spent over $1.5 billion.
For Megan Thee Stallion, Beyonce, think about all of the millions.
She paid for these
$1 million she did. She spent to erect the Call Her Daddy podcast set while refusing Joe Rogan, who Joe Rogan will say himself, I think I helped influence the election in Donald Trump's favor. It was such a waste of resources.
Unbelievable. Listen, can we go to a call very quickly?
Yes, I don't hear anything yet, though. Should I hear?
You can just sit there and look beautiful.
Oh, okay.
There's nobody giving her an earpiece?
No, I have it. I just don't hear anything.
All right, brilliant. Can you not turn it up? Is there a little thing at the side that you can just see if you can hear that? Is you turning it up?
I'm turning it up. Nothing's happening.
Nothing's happening. This is America for you, our greatest ally.
America?
America. God bless you. Here comes Jodie on her knees. She's identifying as a dog. Honestly, no, this is true. That's what you can do now.
She's identifying as a winner.
A winner. Oh, I thought you said something else there. 0344 419 1000. Can you hear now?
I can't, but
it's rubbish. Yeah. Don't worry, Jodie's still there. Let's go to Sean in Devon. Whereabouts in Devon, Sean?
Gorgeous place called Hemiock.
Called what?
Hemiock.
Oh, I don't shout. Doesn't have a go at me. Anyway, listen. Thank you very much indeed for phoning Drive Time. What you got for me, sweetheart?
Well, darling, if I identified as a rat, would you bloody well give me poison or put me in a trap?
I mean, this is what I'm dealing with. You want to identify... I don't know. Just be more specific. What...
It's absolutely ridiculous. Everything is ridiculous.
This sounds like a scene out of Absolutely Fabulous. Are you all right?
I'm absolutely bloody great. But no, listening to you guys,
yes.
I mean, from... Mike Graham at 6 o'clock in the morning.
Yes.
A lot of the time right through, we don't want to watch Netflix because of Meghan Markle and all that debacle. But to be quite honest, what the hell's gone wrong with this country?
It's on its backside, Sean in Devon. Enjoy your evening. Thank you very much indeed. We go to West Yorkshire. Steph is a new caller. You're on Talk Drive. What you got, Steph?
Well, I was just wondering, because I've just decided that I now identify as a millionaire.
You identify as a millionaire? What does that mean for you?
It means I can get identity affirming care on NHS, and if they don't give me £1 million, it'd be against my human rights.
You're laughing. I'm with you, mate. What do you? I mean, I was talking about the silent majority before. I mean, what do you make of where we're going in this country, mate?
my mostly entire family have been miners or train drivers, you know, coal from power stations, etc. Voted Labour, ardent Labour voter until Boris Johnson, and now I wouldn't vote for any of them ever.
What do you make of reform?
I think I'm going to vote for him just because I think they've got best chance of getting in. But to be fair, I've been looking a lot at UKIP lately.
Listen, I don't disagree with you. It's very kind. One more call. London, James, how are you, son?
How are you, JK?
Not bad for a balding 59-year-old has-been, but I am in the presence of beauty because Kinsey Schofield is in Studio One.
Jeremy, you are the man. I'm just ringing up just to basically say we could save ourselves £52 billion.
How?
Just hand the Caicos Islands over to the Americans. We can still share it with them, and we can save ourselves £52 billion.
I wasn't quite sure why we gave it to Mauritius, who have never been interested in it.
1,500 miles away, Jeremy.
You what?
It's 1,500 miles away from the Caicos Islands.
I know, but this was. Starmer wants to give it away. He's a nutcase, isn't he, Starmer? To be fair,
he is, Jeremy. But we got to understand this was under the Conservative government that the negotiation started. And just a quick one to Bob Seeley. Bob, I listened to your conversation with Jeremy. You've got severe Trump derangement syndrome. I don't believe a word you said. You had 14 years to sort it out. The Tories are dead.
Great. James in London, lovely to have you on. Kinsey Schofield,
Very assertive.
Roger, no, not Roger. Pardon? Yes. Steve says, I am so jealous. Kinsey Schofield has the best smile on television in the world. Her jacket is wonderful. I love her.
Well, I identify as a size 2, so I really am enjoying this conversation. But thank you for that sweet compliment.
What do you make of this? I mean, do you have this in America, this madness? This week we've had you can identify as a llama. You can stay in this country if you don't like chicken nuggets in Albania. But not now under Trump. You can't come in.
No, you don't have this in America in the future. We were dealing with this stuff, but I don't. This is the kind of nonsense that the Trump administration is going to squash immediately.
He's got 4 years and is in a hurry. Do you feel at this moment? What do you think of the old J.D. Vance? Do you think?
I think that they have 8 years because I think J.D. Vance is going to slide right in. If he's up against Gavin Newsom, LOL. I mean,
LOL. What does that mean? What is LOL? I thought is that not lots of love?
It's a laugh out loud.
I never understand.
If J.D. Vance is up against Gavin Newsom, who's literally allowed the state of California to burn down, then it's a no-brainer. And if Trump continues in the successful direction that he seems to be going, then it's also a no-brainer because they say that J.D. Vance is pulling Trump back a bit and making the White House a saner space than it had been during
Here's the thing, as we go to a break, I'm going to throw this at a Californian resident, right? He gets 4 years, Trump. J.D. Vance gets 8 years, and Baron Trump becomes president at 30.
I think that's pretty premature.
16 years.
Pretty premature.
That's never been said to me before. This is Talk Drive.
Because at the end of the day, apparently it says that now 15% of the total number of people behind bars are people who have been sent back in after they've been released. So there's clearly a problem, and you've always said this, Vanessa, with what happens when they're in there as well, because what they're not being encouraged to do is figure out how to stay away.
I can't say this enough. The bigger picture is how our prison system has been run into and our justice system for that matter, has been run into the ground.
Yeah, right.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Back 8 minutes to 7, 8 minutes away from Kev O'Sullivan. He's live across the UK with the political asylum. Kinsey Schofield has come all the way from LA. How bad is it in LA, seriously?
The mood is improving, but it's, the entire city wiped out, maybe 2 or 3 houses left in an entire neighborhood. Schools burned down, so if your house did survive, where is your kid going to go to school? Grocery stores gone. It's really bad.
Let's talk about Meghan and Harry, because I can never sit in front of you or with you and not talk about those couple of dullards. There was this extraordinary story this week. Invictus Games, for me, one of the best things that he ever did. But this footage came out 2 days ago. I talked about it. I'd love your take on it. Of them arriving in this sort of what looked like an open-topped Pope-mobile sat on the back of a golf buggy. And I'm just being really honest here, so please don't get offended because it's being shown on screen. Driving past disabled athletes in wheelchairs and those who have lost limbs and who have made supremely courageous attempts to do so well, sort of waving like they're royalty almost, excuse the pun, not walking, not meeting, being driven past them. Are they tone deaf, these two, seriously, do you think?
Think about the contrast of the video we saw last week of Catherine, the Princess of Wales, who, you've seen them security-wise. Once their detail starts to exit a venue, they're gone. She stops the detail, jumps out of the car, and runs over to a child that she heard screaming her name and stands there and engages with this beautiful baby. Meanwhile, Harry and Meghan are doing the, pageant wave to all of these people.
What is the pageant wave? Oh, you're doing very well. Apparently it's like that.
But, it just seems so insincere and vulgar compared to the real beauty and appreciation you see from the Princess of Wales actually stopping and engaging with people. She asks them where they're from and how they are, how they...
It's very genuine with her.
100%.
And I always feel, and I get some people criticise, but not many, I always feel that there is a motive behind the narcissist that is Meghan Markle's desire to do anything, that there's always an ulterior motive. There's always a reason for it. It's never genuine or off the cuff. It comes across
well, that's
as
why
patently
that was
planned.
recorded by Meghan's team and uploaded to her Instagram because she's trying to show us that the world loves her. That was the motive, right?
Tell them what happened about with the firefighting. How they got the people that were helping to move out the way so they could look good. Is that true?
That's true. There were almost 100 volunteers there helping clean up and just helping with the recovery process, and they were asked to take a 15-minute break and stop doing what they were doing so that Harry and Meghan could come. They're so paranoid about security, even in a place that looks like a war zone, and they got a private tour of the destruction with the Pasadena mayor, who I'm assuming had better things to do day 2 after a horrific fire.
What I wanted to ask you, you've been there, what happened to that idiotic-looking female head of the fire, or the mayor of
Karen Bass,
who couldn't say anything and just looked at the floor? I mean, extraordinary. Is it true that she took $47 million of aid away from providing water and put it towards some ludicrous sort of stuff like they do over here.
She was trying to cut the budget further a week before the fires. She was still asking that the fire department make cuts to the budget. I mean, same with Gavin Newsom, though. They both... And then putting it towards the homeless crisis as the homeless numbers continue to grow. I wouldn't complain if whatever they were doing with that money, which they cannot account for, they cannot show us where that money is going. I wouldn't complain if the homeless numbers were shrinking, but they're getting larger. And if you look at the percentage of the amount of fires started by the homeless community in Los Angeles, it's ridiculous. So, you know, there's no justification.
Hi, Talker. Identify as the new Prime Minister. Things are going to improve around here. Trust me, says Michael in God's country, Northumberland. Talk, Kinsey, you're a legend. That jacket is top drawer. Get Jez to explain that one to you, says Sally in Islington. Roger Thomas Evans. Talk about lunatics in charge of the bleeding asylum. We've now got politicians self-identifying as cuddly animals. They'll soon be holding meetings over Zoom. Kevin O'Sullivan.
Hello.
Oh, yeah.
Hi, Kiz.
Hey. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I thought, bit of an exclusive. I've got Kinsey Schofield on the show. Oh, no, she came on your show last night.
Yeah, well, I bought her lunch, you know. I invested in our guest.
You bought Kinsey Schofield lunch?
I did buy her lunch.
When?
Today.
And did you pay for it or did you put it on expenses?
Ask Kinsey if I paid for it.
It was his personal card. I witnessed it.
Did he?
Yes.
What's happened to you? Look at him sitting there smug as anything. Took a lady out for use my personal card. He hasn't bought Jack for anybody since 1734.
Yeah.
He's on manoeuvres. I know what O'Sullivan's like. What are you talking about, man?
Yeah, I bought lunch. You've changed.
Oh, Kev, what a day. I was just saying to somebody earlier, genuinely, I said to Kims as well, it's 3 days this week, and people think I'm making this up. We've had you can identify as a llama, you can stay in this country because your son doesn't like chicken nuggets, and when Stella Creasy today said, and I quote, I think we should treat our immigrants slightly better, we let Paddington Bear stay. Harry Cole rang me to wind me up. I thought it was a Mickey take. She doubled down. That is what we're dealing with in this country.
I say don't let Paddington Bear in. He's a foreigner, you know.
I think Paddington Bear needs to wear a baseball cap backwards and change his whole approach. I think he should be sent off in shackles. But I mean, honestly, that's what we're doing.
It's just crazy. And these Labour people, they cannot bring themselves to deal in common sense. It's common sense to keep out as many asylum seekers as possible because this country is full.
Creaking.
And now we've got this guy who says that every single Palestinian can come here and settle and live here. And, you think, oh, no, not another one of these moronic, half-wit immigration tribunal judges. What's his name? It's Hugo Norton Taylor. Of course it is.
Who's never ever been out of London.
Yes,
Hugo Norton Taylor.
Yeah, who may or may not be related to somebody who works on The Guardian. There's a big surprise, you know. It's pathetic. We are letting these left-wing idiots ruin this country. It is as simple as that.
Fingers crossed it changes.
It's getting very, very worrying.
Have you got Kinsey on your show?
No, I'm going to get her on
Only in
tomorrow,
his heart.
Yeah.
So you bought her lunch and she dumped you. So
Yeah,
you bought her lunch. You bought her lunch and she
Can I
came
have
on
my
my
money
show.
back?
Oh yeah. You thought, right? Honestly, that's what did you have for lunch? Just very quickly.
Fish and chips.